Last time, on Crowntide, Isla went to a memory forest and saw a bunch of her memories because Asta loves flashbacks. Oro and Grimm went to pester Azul, who seems to be the only competent adult in the area. They wanted to talk to his dead husband. Isla had more memories of how much her life sucked via the magic memory woods. And then Isla and Lark faced random monsters that don't matter and never came up again. Grimm and Oro got info from Azul's dead hubby, a thing which seems to have been super easy to do, and also we never saw the husband because fuck you, Alex asked her. Isla got her first visit from the Silver Lady, who just told Isla that she's really, really special. Thanks to Azul's dead husband, who doesn't get a name, the boys found out about the magic pools of lung water in both Lightlock and Skyshade. Isla cut off the boys from her, but not really, it was just a way to thwart Cronin in that exact moment. Asta doesn't understand how tide pools work, but the boys still found a lung water pool very easily. Oro used the threads of time from the Underwater King to see the past and became addicted, and his friends staged a string intervention. Isla and Lark were captured by Cronin to be brain tortured. It turned out that Cronin could change Isla's memories, but that actually doesn't matter to the plot at all. There were a lot of repetitive scenes of Isla being mind tortured and the boys pining. Somehow Isla got the power to communicate with the boys in their dreams, and then later as a Jedi Force Ghost IRL. Oro and Grimm learned that the next MacGuffin they need is a living piece of Skyshade, which turned out to be a storm, because those are alive. Isla went to the pool again and found out that she has all the souls of everyone she's ever killed casually inside of her. Also, she hatched a new scheme to beat Cronin. Grimm happened to fly over his hedge maze, which has been on his property since he was a child, and noticed for the first time that it's the exact shape of a Skyer he needs. Once they had the storm and the Skyer, the boys went to get a child to use as a magical battery. Isla learned from the pool that everything she ever did was the right thing, actually, and this is the best timeline. And she also found out that all the big bads have Horcruxes just like Harry Potter. The boys finally had all the MacGuffins they needed to reach Isla, and Isla was randomly ready for them to reach her, even though she had been telling them the entire time to not come rescue her. Only one of the boys could go, and 0% of us were shocked when it was Grimm. But oh no, Grimm showed up and Cronin wiped all of his memories of Isla! What could possibly happen next?
Hello, it's a ferret. And it's me. This is Jadzia. She usually doesn't hang out. She's trying to leave. It's like, that's enough, Mom. You want to play? Oh, she wants to play. Oh, she's spicy. Oh, she's spicy. She's war dancing away. There she goes. It's the weekend, so I'm going to be trying to do a lot of reading this thing because I really want to get this done so that I can put it out into the world for you all. We are back with Grimmy Poo, and he gets to meet Isla again for the very first time. I'm assuming that only his memories of Isla will have been erased, although, see, okay. Memory erasing in a story is really hard. Amnesia in a story is harder than people think it will be. I have worked with clients who have used that, like more than one, actually. Like, apparently it's a popular thing that people want to write about. When you erase someone's memory in a story, you have to know the rules of the memory erasure, and you have to kind of get them across to the reader. Hopefully, Aster will do this. It'll probably be as simple as he doesn't remember Isla. That's a pretty simple one. But, like, especially when it comes to, like, magical memory erasing. But even if you want to have somebody hit by a car and they have amnesia, at least then you can, like, research that. But, like, magical memory erasing, it's like, what are the rules for what's missing? What do they remember how to do, for example? Like, do they remember how to function? Do they remember how to use their magic? You know, like, do they remember that they're the king? There's so many things. Do they remember anything of their childhood? And without that, who are they? A great show that I recommend you watch for people who have no memory but still have a very clear sense of self is Severance. Great show, just on its own, but also a really good way to see how when characters are like dialed back to just who they are at their core, how they still have a personality. A lot of times with memory loss, you can have a character who like loses their personality, or like you wonder why they are the way that they are because they have no memories to form that. So anyway, that's a lot of jabbering, and I don't know if it makes any sense, but let's dive in with Grimm. Okay, so we already have that he knows he can sense auras, and hers is red, and he knows that that's unusual. So I think the only thing that was wiped is just his time with Isla. The rest, I think he still remembers everything else. He can sense emotions coming from her, of course, and it's soul-shredding sadness and bone-deep despair. Well, at least it's not bone-melting despair, I guess. He also can feel like waves of love coming from her to him, and he's like, that's weird. I would never feel love. So good, we get to watch this awful, awful person figure out how to love all over again. He can sense that she has all the powers. Yeah, so he remembers everything except when it has to do with Isla. So he knows he's in another dimension. He knows he came here to get something. He knows he was working with Oro, a guy that he doesn't like, but he doesn't remember why. A lot of what he does, however, is very Isla-based, so I don't know how... He's probably going to have to think back and be like, wow, there's a lot of big gaps in my memory. That's concerning. So he doesn't remember getting... He sees that she's wearing Infinite, the big life alert necklace, and he doesn't remember getting it for her. So, like, again, the rules are so wibbly-wobbly, you know? Like, he obviously didn't remember giving it to her, but does he remember fetching it for her? What are the rules? We have to have a pause where Grimm, like, kind of searches around in both Cronin and Isla's emotions, and he comes to the conclusion that, like, he doesn't understand why Isla hasn't finished Cronin off already, because she's clearly so powerful she could just destroy everything here. Asta really loves vices in this book specifically. Not vices as in, like, oh, he had the one vice, he was really into gambling. No, the vices as in the things that clamp down. So he has a vice around his emotions, not a shield around his emotions, not a wallop around his emotions, a vice specifically. But Grimm decides that maybe he's here for that diamond, really. Which is a good guess. He knows he came here for something, and she's wearing the Infinite Diamond, so he's like, cool, that's probably what I wanted. And he unleashes a curl of daggers sharpened into blades. Sir, what's a curl of daggers, first of all? But second of all, daggers already are blades. You don't need to sharpen them into blades. They are blades. Maybe it was supposed to be a curl of shadows sharpened into blades. She blocks the daggers like Wonder Woman. She just basically does one of these and blocks them all. And then her power exploded out of her in a surge. Here's another little thing. I'm going to point these things out. There's a lot of this kind of thing in this book, and I'm not pointing it out every time it happens. But something to remember, when you're writing your own book, he watched her look at him. We don't need he watched her. We are in his point of view. We know he would be the one doing the watching. So you can just say, she looked at him, she stared at him, whatever. So Isla blasts him back with her powers and then shoots off like Superman into the sky where a storm is forming now. So I don't know how she was using her powers before if there's only a storm forming now. Whatever. Cronin is like, go bring her back as a corpse, and Grimm is like, ah yes, we are definitely in cahoots, you and I, maybe, to get this diamond. Grimm had spent centuries keeping his realm from destruction. If it fell, it would mean all the pain and suffering would have been for nothing. So what does he think he was protecting his realm for now that there's no Isla? Because we know from the novellas that he really only remembers to go fight Drex when he feels like it, especially when he wants to not think about Isla. So when he's feeling super horny, rather than a cold shower, he goes and he fights Drex for a little while. But he tends to forget about that job because he very, very obviously doesn't care about his people. So, like, without Isla in this reality that Grimm is now living in, why was he defending his people for centuries? Cronin's like, she's gonna destroy your realm, you have to go kill her. And Grimm's like, I believe you, man. Even though, wouldn't he know that he was here? Like, he doesn't remember why he was here to fight Cronin, but he would know he was here to fight Cronin. No, he's like, no, never mind, I'm on Cronin's side. So, I don't know. He flies off after her, like, Shadow Superman. How long is Oro's chapter? We're back with Oro. Okay, it's pretty short, so I'll probably read this one too. So we're back with Oro and dealing with the fact that she chose Grimm, but it's really good that she did because, as I mentioned a million times, he was the only one who actually had a Skyer to protect him from being ripped to shreds by traveling through a portal. So, of course, we begin this chapter with Oro devastated that she chose Grimm over him. And, like, he's finally kind of coming to the understanding that, like, oh, it has been Grimm, it always will be Grimm, she will always choose Grimm. Even in the past when she chose me, it's basically because Grimm wasn't an option. But Oro is so devastated that the world around him starts to fall apart with his sadness because he's linked to the island. Chai is mad that I'm filming, and so she's just going to poop, like, right in front of me. This is the ferret way. So Oro's freaking out. He's created a tornado around himself, you know, he's just emotionally devastated. And who comes to his rescue but Enya? And are we finally going to get Enya saying her catchphrase?
Get used to disappointment.
He almost kills Enya, of course, in his despair, but then he realizes at the last second that he shouldn't kill his friend. So she's still alive, still has a chance to say the line. But then he remembers that also his other friends were there, and also the child he was using as a battery. Oh good, Zed just saved them all. He made a pocket of wind around them and they're just like floating up in the sky. They're fine. Dang it, she doesn't say the line. I'm so disappointed. It would have been perfect, while he's cradling his friend in his arms like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to almost kill you. She could have said, it would have been perfect, I do not die today. And I could have put it on the bingo card, but asked her, she's toying with me now like a cat with a crinkle toy. So Oro has sort of, his powers exploded out of him, and then he's realized that was bad. And you know how character arcs happen in the space of one chapter. So he has despaired over Isla, his powers have gone everywhere, and he's decided that was bad, all in the span of a chapter. So probably next time we see him, while he will still be really, really, really sad at the loss of Isla, because we cannot have a character getting over Isla, ever. Like, they have to pine forever. But, like, he'll probably be past this whole, like, so much despair that he would destroy the world thing. But he looks down at the tide pool and, oh no, there's monsters coming out of it. Aster's other favorite thing, making monsters come out of places. So yeah, it's the Drex all over again. Drex 2.0. Here we go. Oro had to have something to do while Grimm was off, forgetting Isla existed. And we're back. I have my emotional support chocolate here. And we are going to keep on keeping on. If you hear noises in the background, I've got laundry going on one side of the house. Adam is hanging out and watching TV on the other side of the house. So random noises, probably what that is. We're back with Isla. Grimm was coming for her. She could feel his power careening toward her like a darkness that could smear the sun from the sky. Ah yes, a darkness that could smear the sun from the sky is famously very fast. It does a lot of careening. Like when you say careening like we expect you to then pick a thing that would careen, like a cannonball. But instead, she just went on to describing like what his darkness is gonna do? I don't know. So Isla's flying straight up into the storm, pursued by Grimm, and then it says, as she's flying up, let's see, seams and creatures began to emerge from the storm. Seams and creatures. But Isla looks around real fast to see if she can find another mini portal like the one that got her here, and immediately she spots one, of course, because she's the main character, and she heads for it. I guess we don't need Lark anymore. She'll probably reappear, I would guess, at the end of the book, so Isla can finally kill her and get all her powers or something. Here I thought that maybe, my hopes were not terribly high, but I thought that maybe Lark and Isla were going to have to learn to get along and work together, and teamwork makes the dream work, and Lark would learn to change her ways thanks to Isla's goodly influence, and that we'd do something with that. But no, she's apparently just going to leave her. So she goes through the mini portal, and she's back on sand dunes. It seems to be like the two places apparently this portal can take people. It's the sandy place and Cronin's memory forest. So many things in these books let you relive your memories. Oh my god, we're just completely 100% stealing from Iron Man at this point. So she lands, and her armor all goes flying off of her as she lands. She still has a little bit of power because the storm's dissipating, because she went through the portal, so I don't think there'd be a storm where she is now. But anyway, she has a little bit of power left over from the storms, so she turns all of her armor into a bracelet. So, like, she can apparently, starlings can create matter, so presumably they can change matter. So she changes all of her armor into a bracelet, so that she can, like, have her armor on her, and once again, just pull an Iron Man and have it all just, like, appear on her body when she needs it to. So she thinks about how her only two remaining possessions are the bracelet that she just made for her armor, and her mother's charm that she also wears as a bracelet for some reason. But also she still has the infinite. She's still got the diamond. So she looks around for like 2 seconds and she sees what looks like an oasis. And she's pretty sure this one's not a mirage. Maybe she should have a moment where she thinks about how if Oro had been brought here and robbed of his memories of her, he would have been a lot harder to convince to just attack her. It was super easy to convince Grimm, who had no memories of her, to just straight up attack a stranger. Oro probably would have hesitated. And this is your sign, ma'am, that you should be concerned when your husband will only be nice to people who are you, and once he doesn't remember that you are you, he will also attack you. I think we're well beyond red flags here. We are red banners. The whole side of the building is painted red. So she walks to the oasis that she conveniently landed right next to, and it's a village. There's a whole village just in this oasis, and she hears clinking glasses and happy chatter. So good to know that the desert people are just having a great time. Is it a cozy Christmas desert village? Apparently they have a market, and I'm like, okay, they are in an oasis. That's not really the sort of place that has a market as we know them. Markets are mostly for people who are coming in and out selling things, buying, selling, trading. Here, this would probably be like one nomadic clan would be my assumption, or one clan living within this oasis. So they would not need a market because they're all just one group. They would trade amongst themselves. Like they would, whatever. Aster doesn't know how things work. Culture building is so far outside of her scope. Even Isla knows that Grimm is endgame because she's like, seeing these people in their village reminds me of hanging out with Oro. And I still miss Oro. And he has a little piece of my heart, but she straight up just says, but most of it belonged to Grimm. The market is like so busy in this oasis village that she's stumbled across, that she can just like steal stuff and nobody notices her and goes, who the fuck are you? Like she certainly would not be dressed like any of them. We don't even know what these people look like or how they're dressed, but there's a market and she's stealing things like fabric. Again, we're in a desert, so fabric, would probably be a fairly precious commodity. She uses the fabric to dress herself like the others at the village who don't notice her coming in. Like, she's like, I need to disguise myself as a villager. Nobody notices her until she has disguised herself. And also, we still don't know what these villagers look like. Isla says that there are only a few trees in this oasis, but there's like a village with houses and a market. And there's only a few trees? Isla joins a line for water because she's thirsty. There's like a water pool in the center of town, but she notices that it's very small. She thinks that maybe the people here are running out of water, which again, they're behaving like it's a normal market day. But if they're running out of water, maybe they might be thinking about leaving or something. I don't know. But it might be magic water because she also says that it's glowing. Are these people living off of drinking magical lung water? Oh, we finally find out that these people have, like, tanned skin, it says. Not tan skin, tanned. Implying that, well, rightfully so, they live in a desert, that it was darkened by the sun. We don't know. Darkened from what? Did they look like me? Because I look very different with a tan than somebody who already has a complexion to speak of. But a nice lady loans Isla a cup to drink the water and then is like, man, I love sacred water. Sacred water is my favorite kind of water. That's basically exactly what she says. But at least this lady is like, hey, yo, I don't recognize you. This person, like every woman that Isla meets who is either an antagonist or immediately her friend, this one goes the immediately her friend route and Isla says, I am running from my husband. And this woman's like, oh, I get it. Fair. Lots of people apparently run and hide from their husband in this oasis. So she's like, okay, we're besties now. And she loops her arm around Isla's and they head back into the market together. Might Isla think for a moment, the last time somebody was just randomly nice to me, they turned out to be part of an Isla-centric death cult? The lady takes Isla back to her house, which is underground, which would have been cool to hear about before we're actually there. Like, it's not like Isla couldn't see the village until she was actually in someone's home. We could get a description of what the village looked like before we are experiencing one of the houses, because I was picturing a very different thing, and now we find out that the homes are underground.
Wouldn't it be cool if instead of finding just more generic humans, Isla stumbled on some of Remlar's people? Because as you recall, Remlar the bug man who lived with his bug people in this like honeycomb house somehow in a forest or on a cliff or something, I don't remember anyway, he came from this world. So it would be cool if she could encounter some more bug people and then maybe she could be like, hey, do you know Remlar? And they could be like, oh, him, yeah, we liked him. And that could give her a connection to them instead of just being handed an automatic friend because this lady happens to be nice.
The lady whose name is Giselle or Giselle, I'm not sure, Giselle. She has 2 kids. They probably won't matter. The kids, of course, point out immediately that Isla has the most beautiful green eyes in the whole wide world. So she says you have lovely children, and Giselle says, oh, they're not mine, not by blood anyway. And then it says, Isla could fill in the blanks. Great, what are the blanks? What conclusion does Isla jump to? I want to know what Isla thinks. the story is with this woman and these kids that aren't hers. But Jessel sits Isla down and she's like, what's your story? And Isla spills the beans. Isla tries to get more details, but of course Jessel doesn't know anything because then Aster would have to come up with things that she'd have to remember. Isla's like, hey, I was captured by sandbenders, and Jessel said, there are many factions in these lands, and I don't know much about them, but they trade in artifacts they've collected from other worlds. She's just like, yeah, there's lots of people here, but I don't know anything about them, so I don't have to, like, explain anything, and therefore Aster doesn't have to remember anything that she said in a previous chapter, and Isla can just continue to encounter whatever. A shadow fell upon Jessel's expression from where she stood kneading dough. Alright, this is the first we've heard of Jessel being up and doing anything. From where she stood kneading dough, like we don't watch her go to do anything. She's already kneading the dough somewhere in this conversation. But she's kneading dough in the desert. I'm not saying that this stuff couldn't be true in this tiny oasis town in the middle of an ash desert. I'm just dubious. What are they using for bread? What are they making? What is their flour made out of? Where did they get the yeast? Or are they using some other kind of leavening agent that also needs to be kneaded? Like, this confused me. So Isla says, has anybody ever gone up against Cronin? And Jessel says, of course, but anyone foolish enough to try has never come back. She nodded toward a crudely made game in the corner, built of glass and carved rock. It belonged to the boys. That's what happened to their parents, she sighed. They fought, and for what? And for a second, I thought that we were implying that the children's parents had been turned into a board game. Back me up on that. That's what it sounded like, right? Or that they had somehow been transformed into statues, and this game reminded her of the statues. But no, we looked at the board game to remind us of the kids. So it's very bad writing. I'm sorry. It's not good. To be clear, this is the sort of thing that a developmental editor could point out, and I would point out for you, and then you would be able to fix it. But nobody told Aster that, so she can't fix it, and now it's published. So much of what she writes is contradictory. I know that she can't picture things in her head. She's already admitted that. But then you have to do a better job of keeping track of how your characters are positioned in the scene if you can't picture it. When I picture a scene, I know how my characters are positioned because I can visually see it. So I make fewer mistakes about their positioning. I still make some. But so it tells us, a couple lines above, that Jessel is looking at her sidelong. So, out of the corner of her eye. And then it says, still, Jessel just stared at her a couple of lines down, implying that Jessel has been staring this entire time. But she's not. She's been looking at Isla sidelong. How are they positioned? How is she looking sidelong? How is she now staring? What is going on?
If you are having trouble keeping track of a character's positioning in a scene, I highly encourage you to use props, Legos, chess pieces, snacks, whatever you gotta use to help you keep track if you can't picture it. This is especially helpful for a fight scene, but can even be helpful in a regular conversation scene if you're going to be having your characters moving around and doing things, which I encourage you to do because that keeps the scene from being static. So if you can't picture your characters in your head and how they are positioned in relation to each other, it's okay to use objects. It will keep you from doing things like having characters suddenly teleport across a room, or be close to somebody and then not close to somebody at the same time somehow.
Apparently this little family has enough water to spare that Isla is able to wash the blood and dirt from herself. Pretty convenient that Isla just immediately happened upon this oasis and then immediately happened upon somebody who wanted to help her, all through no effort of Isla's. Isla just stumbles upon things. So she stays in the house for a day because these people are awake at night and sleep during the day, which at least Aster thought of that, thank God. But now she's back out. It's either sunrise or sunset. I'm not sure which. And she just leaves. She doesn't even say goodbye to the family, or we don't see her say goodbye. She's just like, I can't stay here because my evil husband's coming for me. Also, she slept but didn't dream about Oro. But now she's thinking about Oro and she thinks that she hears his voice. So she feels around for the thread that connects her to Oro. And she's like, it won't be there because I chose Grim. Which is, I guess, why she didn't think of accessing it until now. But it's still there, of course, because Oro will never stop simping. One thing about Oro, he is a simp for life. But she has a vision of Oro, what he's doing right now, which is fighting monsters with the power of sadness. He's so distraught that he's, more powerful than she's ever seen him. We hand-wave this moment away by saying, something about this world had strengthened the bonds between them. Good. Great. Glad we don't need to explain anything ever. Basically, a wizard did it all the time. Why is this happening? It's just a thing that happens. But Oro is able to realize that she's watching him and, like, turn and address her, even though he was previously just fighting monsters. But probably he's, like, passively fighting monsters in the background with his magic while he's talking to her. So Isla tells Oro what happened, and of course, I'm sitting here going, wait, but Grim would still have memories of Oro. Perhaps our budding romance could still go on between the boys. So she's like, hey, Oro, real quick, I am gonna need to fight Grim, like, martially. What are his weaknesses? And of course, Oro's like, he only has one known weakness, and it's you. And I would be like, that is not helpful. That's really, really actually quite unhelpful. And that's it for the Oro vision. The next chapter is pretty short, but I think I might connect it with the following one real quick here. Not that it really matters all that much to you. See you for the next one. I'm hoping with my mic that you cannot hear Adam in the next room, but this movie just got briefly quite loud, so. We are back with Oro. He is battling beasts. Beast after beast. We don't know what they look like, but they sure are beasts that are coming out of the pool. Because he's keeping the portal open, I guess, is why. I don't know what these critters were doing back in their home world. Like, did they just hang out waiting for a portal to open so they can run through and try to attack whatever's there? Like, is that what they sit around doing? I don't think Astra thinks about what actually something would look like when she says it. But Oro gets clawed by claws the length of his body. So like 6 foot something claws. So if you got hit by those claws, you might just be ripped in half. But okay. It cuts through his armor, but he's like, that's okay. My armor was weighing me down anyway, so I don't need it. I mean, technically, can't Oro create a starling shield, like, right around his body, like, skin tight? I don't know why he just doesn't do that more often. Also, he can gild. He could be turning all of these monsters to gold the moment they come through the portal. Classic simp behavior. He's, of course, thinking about Isla and the whole situation. So all Oro could do was worry and pick up the pieces that Isla and Grim had left behind. Moving on is out of the question. Moving on from Isla was never going to happen, let's be real. And also, tangentially, moving on from Grim was also never going to happen.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
And that's the chapter. He just worries about them and fights monsters. He'll be fine. Just gotta stay there and fight monsters, probably. And maybe Enya will get to say, I do not die today, which would be great. But we're with Grim again. I'm just going on to chapter 49, because Oro's chapter was like a page long. It only took him 2 nights to find her. He portaled all over this strange world until he finally spotted the unmissable Crimson Aura. So, like, what is this world? Is it just desert and memory forest? What did he see? Where did he go? What else is there? Apparently, she stayed at the Oasis, though. Because it says it took him 2 nights. She stayed there for 1 day and then, like, left the family, but she just stayed in the village? I thought we were implying that she was also going to leave the village, but I guess not. She's still there. So he goes down and faces her, and of course, she's not surprised to see him, even though in the previous chapter with her, she was like, I need to get away from these people because Grim's coming for me. But now she doesn't care, I guess. But of course, we are just repeating everything. So you remember how when they first time they met, at the very beginning of their relationship, she stabbed him? Well, guess what she just did? Are we just going to do everything the same? Like, we have to just parallel it all? When do they go to the Cozy Christmas Village? She doesn't try to explain anything. She doesn't go, hey, we were married, and that guy before, Cronin, he made you forget about me. She doesn't even try. She's just like, I know you, and, like, twists the dagger. Apparently he wasn't wearing his armor, though. Dumb. He came here to fight Cronin. Not even going to wear your armor? Is he forgetting what powers he has? I feel like he is. Because it says he should have snuck up on her and slit her throat before she had a chance to see him. Yeah, because he can be invisible and intangible. Can he not do that here? Because you'd think he could. Instead, he chose to teleport right in front of her, and she was ready and she stabbed him. He could have gone through the wall behind her and slit her throat. But he's just... Did he forget? Did Astra forget? Who forgot what powers this man has? Again, we don't need he saw her. We are in his point of view. We understand that he would be the one doing the seeing. So as it stands, it says, there she was. He saw her scurrying across the dunes. There she was, scurrying across the dunes. See how that still works just fine without the he saw her? Because we don't need to know who is seeing her. We understand that. We are in his point of view. Apparently sand sputters. So he hits her with a shadow, and she goes, like, careening across the desert, and it says, sand sputtering. Okay, we're learning something about the storms that he seems to feel is obvious, but which I do not, in that they are drawn to his power. So he used his abilities, and now a storm is coming, so Isla can use her powers too. The way that's framed, it's like, oh, that's super annoying that this world does that. Like, we were supposed to know? No? That didn't happen to Cronin. The storm seemed to be random, whatever Cronin was doing stuff. So, like, why is it happening for Grimm? I don't understand anything. She flies up and she blasts fire at him and he blasts shadows at her, and it does that thing that all of the movies do where the two jets of power meet in the middle and just like spark and everything everywhere. And she's like, "You love me." And he's like, "LOL, no I don't." So they fight for a while, blah 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 blah. And then he can sense that she's going to try to escape via another mini portal, but he's like, "Not this time." Don't worry, because he shot forward. Ooh, are we going to the cozy Christmas village of this world? Because they shoot through the mini portal that she found, and instead of going back to Cronin's memory forest, they're in someplace snowy now. I don't know why Aster loves to take Isla to cold places, specifically with the guy who we know is canonically cold to the touch. Grimm had portaled all across the world. He had seen what Cronin had done to it. This place had been ripped to shreds. What does it mean? What does it mean? She loves the word shreds. Like, she's definitely used it a lot before, but in this book we have entered crutch word territory, because if anything has been ruined in any way, it's shreds. If you played a drinking game where you drank every time shreds were mentioned, you would be in the hospital by now. I don't understand what this means. So the mountain that they're on is like shifting and pieces that are breaking and reforming, and it's kind of a cool mental image if Aster was better at writing it. But it says, he lunged toward her only for the ice beneath his feet to vanish. Okay, tracking so far. His shadows flared, turning into claws, keeping him grounded. What does that mean? The ice under his feet is just straight up gone. How are shadows turning into claws going to keep him grounded when there's no ground? She goes Avatar state, she has an orb of like wind and snow swirling around her. As they fight on this snowy mountaintop, she's like, here's a bunch of memories that we have together. Remember how you took me to, your winter palace and the snowy mountains. Remember how there was a maze there. She's just doing the whole, I know you're in there, you remember me. His shadow surged forward, sending her feet sliding back across the peak. Just her feet, though. The rest of her not. It's not sending her sliding back. It's her feet, specifically. Then she's like, I know about your sister. And he's like, no one could know about Layla. Except apparently he also told Oro, which is very romantic of him, because he's like, oh yeah, Oro must have told her. Because I've also told Oro. Doesn't he wonder about the gaps in his memory? Because, he remembers being friends with Oro, and he remembers having, at least some type of relationship with Oro. This girl is supposedly in love with Oro, to the point where she has Oro's powers. So doesn't he wonder, isn't it weird that Oro, never even mentioned her, not once? How does he reconcile that? Or how does he reconcile them beating the Centennial with no Isla? We're just not thinking about it is how he's doing it. She pins him down, and she's freezing his shadows, because that's a thing that you can do. She removed the dagger that was still sticking out of his stomach from when she had stabbed him in the oasis. We remember. I believe it was in this chapter when she stabbed him. We don't need to be reminded that the dagger was from when she stabbed him at the oasis. Because we literally just read that, Aster. We literally just read that. We can remember things from scene to scene. Please, do not assume that your readers are too stupid to remember things that have happened in the same chapter. If readers get to that point, there's no hope for them, honestly. So we kind of do a little bit of a repeat of the Rey and Kylo Ren scene when she stabs him and then heals him that first time, because she pulls the knife out and then she heals him. She says, you took 12 arrows through your chest for me. Oh no, that was because he was very stupid. And he took more than 12, because you guys kept going back, and he kept getting stabbed and shot and any number of other things. Are you sure you want this man back? This is your chance to get away. All of her reminding him of things doesn't work, though, and he is now strangling her with shadows. He's about to snap her neck, but then another mini portal opens, and the wind shoves them through it. And now they're in a forest. So there's 3 biomes that Aster knows about. Forest, snowy frosty mountaintop, and desert. But she rips all the trees out of the ground, not a very wildling thing to do to her, and throws them and Grimm. She's hovering there, looking awesome and badass as usual. Grimm's got a vice around his emotions just like Oro did. Everybody has a vice on their emotions. very specifically, but he's like, oh, she's going to use her emotions for power, so am I. And it just says he dropped the vice around his own. It's pretty convenient that, like, he can just be like, oh, I need more power. I will now have emotions, and then after I'm done using them to make me stronger, I will put them away again. But since his emotions are out of their vice, he's now starting to be able to find her attractive. And he's like, ooh, actually, she's really sexy the way she's using trees to, like, try and hit me. And he's like, maybe I should just let the trees take me out. Like, that would be a cool way to die, actually. Killed by this badass lady. Like, she seems pretty neat. But he remembers that he can turn himself intangible and the trees go right through him. He should really be using that in battle more often. It's his turn to pin her down, turnabout is fair play, I suppose. Okay, there is a storm here. Apparently it wasn't important for us to know that. But it's this, when his shadows go to, like, stab her, something happens, and it says, a force ignited between them, splitting the storm above them in half. And a bolt of lightning struck them both. All right, well, okay, there's another biome that Aster knows about, and that's the seaside. So the lightning strikes them, and then they fall through another mini portal while he's getting a memory of the first time that Isla died. He's getting a memory of that. And he's like, oh, I really was upset about that. And then they fall through a portal onto a beach. But Isla landed in the water, and she's immediately unconscious and drowning. Water is her weakness, apparently. She's like a gremlin, well, not really like a gremlin, because they multiply in water. But you can't get this girl in water. She immediately starts to drown.
He won't survive in water. His molecular density is too great.
Well, I was just gonna, like, leave her here for dead, but now that I have that memory, I need to know more, so I guess I have to go save her. Interesting that she couldn't entice him on her own. She needed to be like, here's a random MacGuffin memory to help you want to be on my side. Because we all know Isla's not diplomatic at all. There's no way she's going to talk her way out of this situation. So the only way it was going to happen is if Deus Ex Machina caused Grimm to stop fighting her. But he does portal them back to Cronin. At least they don't go straight into having, like, a romantic reunion type scenario together. We're already on chapter 50, y'all. I'm ready to be done, but I must press on. And we're back. We're just making some headway through this. We'll see how much more I can tolerate. We're back with Oro. Is he going to do anything useful? At some point, the creatures just stopped coming through the portal, and Oro went home. Why did they stop coming through the portal? Would he have really gone home, or would he have, like, camped out by the portal? I don't know, but he went home. But he's awakened by something hitting the island. The sky was being ripped open by what appeared to be massive teeth, as large and jagged as cliffs, tearing through the night. A flash of lightning revealed the body of what the teeth belonged to. Okay, so there's just a giant, like a ridiculously huge world-eating monster chewing on the sky. So I feel like perhaps you should have kept an eye on that portal better. I think once again that for some reason Aster is channeling Geralt, TV Geralt specifically, with Oro, because he sees that and he just goes fuck. And it's like, yep, that's a very Geralt thing to do. Upon seeing a enormous animal, like it's basically an island in the sky in and of itself, what does he do? He shot toward it. When in doubt, just shoot towards something. Oh my god, imagine if this is how Enya died, because his friends are joining the fight against the sky beast. I'm like, imagine if this is how Enya's mother found out that she died. Killed by a giant island-eating creature from another dimension. Like, how do you even explain that? Well, my daughter is gonna live for quite a while until she's eaten by whatever the fuck that is. Basically, they're kind of fighting Godzilla. That's kind of what I'm picturing. Like, even bigger than Godzilla. And it's like controlling the storm and controlling the waves and a little bit controlling their powers. Like, this critter's a big deal for something that hasn't been set up at all and just has appeared while Oro was having a nap. Calder is in trouble. Oro's trying to go help him. Calder is the moonling, so the water bender. But Zed, the airbender, creates an opening, and then Oro and Enya go after the critter with fire. Oh, dude, I called it. She did get eaten. She got eaten. Who knows for how long. But she's probably going to cut herself out of its stomach with a fire blade or something. But they're fighting it, and Enya, it like sends out a blast of energy because it keeps putting out these blasts of energy. And Enya gets hit, and she's falling from the sky, and the creature just, I'm sure she's fine, but How did I know she was gonna get eaten? Oro goes to save her. And if he could do this all along, I don't know why he didn't, but he basically turns himself into a bullet. And he just, whereas before they were like making little cuts and scratches on this thing, he goes straight through it. Like shoots through the critter and grabs Enya on his way through. She didn't say the line, damn it. So he gets her out. Presumably they're both covered in blood like that scene in Sharknado. And he's like, you're still alive. And she's like, I could have told you that. And I'm like, girlie, say the line. I have a bingo board to fill out. But since he basically shot the creature through the torso with himself, it just collapses, presumably dead. I guess that's how you kill one of those. But it's so big that it's like, takes a chunk of the island with it, like on its way down. If it's edible, though, people will be feasting for a while. Anya's still refusing to say the line. It's like she knows I have to fill it out on my bingo card. She's joking with the boys about how that's not how she was going to die, and she doesn't say the thing that Aster was so proud of in the novellas. She would, every scene with this girl, she was saying it, and now she won't say it. Fine. So yeah, that chapter was just them fighting a big monster. I bet you most of these chapters are going to be that, because Aster doesn't know what to do with Oro. So he's just going to fight monsters. But now we're back with Grimm, and I'm just going to keep reading. I'm not going to take a chapter break, because this chapter is also really short. So Grimm brings Isla back to Cronin, but Cronin's like, cool, let's kill her. And Grimm's like, I decide when she dies, Grandpa. Grimm shrugs a single shoulder. Take a drink. For some reason, everyone is obsessed, I'm sure Joe's here, by the way, with Grimm and Isla having babies. Because, like, Grimm doesn't remember his love, so he doesn't want to have babies with her at the moment. But Cronin's like, we could use her as breeding stock, and you and she could have, like, the most powerful baby ever. Although that seems like a bad idea, because Isla was the most powerful baby ever, and she killed her parents with her first cry, so feels risky. Maybe don't do that. Apparently now we're dealing with galaxies rather than dimensions, because Cronin says, I've conquered much of this galaxy already, but there are more. I thought it was dimensions, but maybe it's planets. Okay, this is going in weird directions. I kind of knew this was going to happen, because somebody warned me that this, like, turns into a sci-fi partway through, and it is now. Cronin says, your world sits between two galaxies. My astral council and I only access it by going through your planet.
It isn't another dimension. It's not another world. It's a wormhole. A bridge.
The diamond cast me out. It's all very stupid. I need it to let me back in, so we can feed on that next frontier. So he's Galactus. Cronin is Galactus, but like a sucky version. Like a shit version of Galactus. Like Temu Galactus. And he wants to conquer the universe. Because that's what bad guys do, presumably. I'm playing back through Mass Effect, for my mental health, all of the 3 games. And all we really need to solve this situation is Commander Shepard. Let Shepard walk in, couple quick good blam blams to the head, and there's another bad guy out. Maybe we're dealing with dimensions and planets, because he says, and then only the diamond can make me powerful enough to link all the worlds together into one world, one universe, and I will rule them all. What are we dealing with here? Are we smooshing everything together into a Franken-planet? Is that what we're doing? Or are we aligning a bunch of different dimensions together? What are we doing, actually?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Probably doesn't matter, because Cronin wants to rule them all, whatever they are. This book does seem to be proof that when writers have no idea where they're going, they just send their characters to space. It's like the Fast and Furious franchise. For some reason, Grimm has the threads of time, or threads of fate, or something with him. He's got some threads. Why does he have them? Did we see Oro give those to Grimm? Maybe we did. But he has them. Cronin's thrilled about it. Oh, he's collecting all of the artifacts with stupid names. So he's like, now I finally have the threads of time. All I need is the pool of possibilities, and I'll have them all. You gotta collect them all. You gotta have the threads of time, the pool of possibilities, the diamond of infinite, like on the back of a cereal box. So his plan is to go back in time using the threads of time, which, as we've seen, can send you actually physically back in time. He needs the pool of possibilities to be his holodeck to run scenarios for the way things could go down. And then he is going to use the infinite diamond to power his time portal, go back in time and do something.
Phase 2? Phase 3, profit!
Okay, whatever. At this point, I'm so checked out about this plot. It's like, yep, sure. Grimm is kind of sitting here like, that sounds great. My life is completely sucked, so I have, like, no connection to the old world. So who cares if everything was, like, reformed? But he's got just the inkling at the back of his mind that maybe there was, like, something. Like, one thing ever that he cared about, that he might be sad if it was gone. Oh, if only he could remember what it was. And that's the end of that chapter. Cronin spilled the beans on his evil plot. We don't understand it, but I'm sure it's definitely very evil. Just trust me, you guys. I mean, if he could make this work, maybe the Lightlark books would never have existed. That'd be great, and then I would never have had to have read them. Man, I'm kind of rooting for Cronin now. 3, 2, 1, ferret. Look, it's Tendy. It's Tendy, and she's spicy. She's spicy. Spicy. Just spicy, baby. She's gonna be attacking me. Ow! She's attacking me. Hi. Hi. I'm in danger. No. 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 No! Mommy's trying to work. She doesn't care. Oh my god, she's trying to bite me so much. Ah! Ma'am. Yep. She's got to attack from above now. I'm trying to read a chapter. I'm going to try to read a chapter of this. While I'm being chewed on. Actively. We gotta find out what happened to Isla. Had a great weekend of free time where I read a lot of this book, but now it is during the week, and I have very limited time to film. Ma'am? Oh good, we're back with Lark. Good. Isla has made 0 progress. Lark has just been sitting here the entire time. She has not tried to do any escaping of her own. Really, she has nothing going on for her unless Isla's present to witness it. I don't remember why Lark hates Isla so much. Did we ever get that explained? Maybe it was in the previous book. She basically says that Isla's death would make her feel happy for the first and last time in her life or something like that. Like, she's just like, yes, Isla, I really want you to die. That would be my favorite thing. And I don't understand why Lark hates her that much. She's thinking about her love for Grimm, of course, and it says he pushed her to be stronger, never treated her like she was made of glass. He never flinched away from even her darker parts. Okay, but, like, he did treat her like she was made of glass, because remember all those times that he was constantly shielding her with his big, strong man body? She got hit by, like, 1 arrow and she's down and out, and Grimm is there, like, taking 50 arrows and being fine, you know? Like, yeah, he did. He did treat her like she was fragile. We were in his POV for a while, and he was constantly thinking about how squishy she was. So I'm afraid that is untrue. Again, I cannot help but feel that Isla might be having a leopard's eating her face moment, because Grimm comes to get her and drags her out of the cell, of course. And she's like pleading with him, Grimm, this isn't you. I know this isn't you. And I'm like, this is him though, honey. This is just a him who's not violently in love with you. This is how he treats everyone else. You're getting a taste of how he treats everyone else. Isla never thought the leopards would eat her face, and yet here they are. But this is not a red flag for her. She's just like, I need to get Grimm back to simping over me. I need to get Grimm back to worshipping me, and then everything will be fine. Rather than, oh my god, realization, this is the man that I married. This is how he treats a woman he doesn't know, that he wants something from. No, that is not going to cross her mind. Aster's so good at describing things. The picture is so vivid. This time there's lots of people around the castle as she's being led through. She sees the knights in their shade-made armor, but also swaths of people dressed in strange, otherworldly clothing in a variety of glistening colors. She says they're dressed for a celebration, but I'm like, if they're wearing otherworldly clothing, how do you know what otherworldly celebration clothing looks like? For all you know, here they celebrate in the nude. So she goes into the room where Cronin is, and he has glued his crown back together. I am endlessly entertained. I choose to believe that it's like with like craft glue or something, and there's very obvious glued pieces. But also, Isla completely failed. She got rid of his Horcrux and didn't kill him, didn't seal the deal. So he just glued his Horcrux back together. I wonder if that could have happened in Harry Potter. She could just glue it back together. I think this is supposed to be invisible force, and she was pulled by an invisible source straight towards him. I think you meant invisible force. This is why we need humans to check things. Now, granted, there can be errors in any book. Any traditionally published book can still have errors, but I feel like I'm finding way more errors in the Lightlark books. And if I am finding errors, my dyslexic ass is finding errors, that probably means there's even more than I'm not seeing, which is the concerning part. Because like this amount of errors, I would be perfectly fine with, especially in a self-published book. It's like an error every 5 or 6 chapters or so. Well, these chapters are short, but you know what I mean? Like it's an error every now and then, and I can just be like, oh, I can see what that's supposed to be and carry on with my life. Fine with that. Personally, does not bother me. I know some people would say that's too many errors and I can't even read that book, which is concerning to me, but all right, you do you. But like for a book like this that is so like high budget supposedly and supposed to be, you know, it's a big popular series, we should be having more than like one person go through it, or we should be having more than just the computer go through it, which is what I think happens to these books. I'm not convinced that a human looks at these anymore. I think that it's edited by AI. Whatever I might joke about, you know, oh, it's written by AI, blah, 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 I feel very strongly that this was not edited by a person with eyeballs. Her hair is puddling around her. Somehow, Alex is an underwriter and still manages to use more words than she needs on a sentence level. Her arms lifted sharply toward the ceiling, as though she was no more than a puppet. I would just say, as though she was a puppet. We don't need the no more than. I feel like the fact that she's being treated very badly is hugely implied by the scenario, so we don't need to know that it's no more than a puppet. She can just be a puppet. Look for places like that where you're using more words than you need in a sentence and not making the sentence stronger. Not every sentence gets stronger when you take out words, but a lot of them do. A lot of them do. So look for those places. But now Isla's regretting her choices as per usual because Cronin realized that she has her mother's charm around her wrist, and he's like, let me just have that then. I can't have the diamond, but I'll have this magical thing with your mom's power in it. So the thing that Cronin does with it is he fuses it into his crown. Does that mean that he has the power now, or is that just like a pocket? Is he just holding it for later? I have no idea. But Isla's like, no, my mother's gift is gone. And I'm like, yeah, you had so many freaking opportunities to use that thing. I don't feel bad for you. So I believe Cronin has absorbed the power, that or he's just fucking with her. But he starts to project like shadow holograms. And one of them is of her stabbing Grim with a giant sword. And Cronin's like, you see, Grim, this bitch wants to stab you. And I'm like, I don't know if that was actually like a vision or if he was just fucking with both of them. He also then shows a vision of her stabbing Oro through the heart, and I'm curious if Grim will care about that because he still has all his memories of his friendship with Oro / beautiful romance. Basically, Cronin is like decided that he needs to have Isla on his side. They need to turn her to the dark side, and then she will stab Oro, and that will be something that they want, I guess. So Cronin's like, I'm going to destroy your world, and then I'm going to travel through the galaxy and consume planets because I am budget Galactus. But now, of course, Cronin has Grim as a bargaining chip, so he's like, this time when he's like, join the dark side, he's like, you can be with your husband if you join the dark side, Isla. You should do that because you want to be with this guy. The sockets of her eyes, you mean her eye sockets? You can just say her eye sockets. Here we have planning against again. Not plotting, planning. If she planned against him during this time, he would know. So yeah, she gets dragged away. She obviously doesn't join them yet, but you never know. And unfortunately, I only have time for the one chapter today, because I gotta go supervise ferrets and do other things. So I will probably see you again tomorrow to read another chapter during ferret time. We're with Grim, and I'm probably gonna read 2 chapters because Grim's chapter is like 2 pages long. I love the fact that Grim can sense auras is just never used unless it's to tell that Isla has a red aura. Chai Chai is here, by the way. Here she is, the chunkiest herself. Chunky. Anyway, Chai Chai, as I was saying, Grim can sense people's auras, but he never does. Unless it's to tell us that Isla's is red, which is unusual. So I guess we're just supposed to assume that everybody else's auras are like green and blue and yellow and stuff and not really care. After that, Chai Chai agrees that's a waste of a character power. I think you mean, like, Cronin came to stand beside him or something. Cronin joined his side. Grim is just standing in a room, and then Cronin comes into the room, and it says Cronin joined his side. That Cronin's already on his side. They're on the same side. You mean he stood beside Grimm? He came to stand beside Grimm? Something like that, I think, is what she's going for. Hello. It's really... should be pretty warm if you're going after my chai.
I am.
Father? It's me, Father. Father, pay attention to me, Father.
Hello, little one.
I'm cute.
You are very cute.
Father, wait. So here's something as somebody who doesn't like to be touched. Me, I don't like to be touched, at least by strangers, definitely not unexpectedly. I don't like it. And Grimm doesn't like to be touched, but he never talks about what it feels like when somebody unexpectedly touches you. He never explains that, like, jolt, that, like, that get away from me feeling that you have when someone you don't want to touch you touches you. It just says someone touches him. Grimm didn't like to be touched. Okay. Anyway, Grimm doesn't like to be touched. It says so right here. Grimm has decided that in this book, he cares about his people again. So he's like, you know, when Cronin was talking about destroying all of my planet to continue to go through and eat more planets, it occurred to me that he intends to, like, kill all of my people as well. And in this book, I care about that. So now Grimm is a little bit more anti-Cronin. You know, Cronin has had a lot of free time where he's not been finding the diamond. So the fact that he hasn't found the pool, which is apparently in the dimension he's in, on the planet he's on, the fact that he has not found that pool does not fill me with hope for him as, like, an awesome bad guy. Because, like, the diamond I get he hadn't been able to find, it was in a whole other dimension that he couldn't even access. But, like, the pool is here. Why are you only now trying to find the pool? Grimm has taken a lot of stuff on faith. If he, like, sat and thought about, like, who might be deceiving me, I feel like this whole book wouldn't work. Because he's like, I feel sorry for Isla, but I shouldn't because she's my enemy, and I saw it in that vision that Cronin just showed me. But he never thinks, but maybe Cronin was lying? Maybe Cronin was deceiving? Maybe that wasn't a real vision? No, that has to have been. Even though he's also going, but Cronin wants to destroy my people, and I don't want that. He doesn't think that Cronin might be lying about anything else. But anyway, we're on to Isla's point of view. I need to mark my chapter here. We're chapter 54. There's so much book left, y'all. There's so much book left. But I am now in the latter half. So at least there's that. But we're with Isla. Lork is still here. We keep forgetting she's here. I keep forgetting she's here until she, like, just says something, a random quip from the corner where she's laying, still, like, in pieces. I know she heals very, very slowly here, but I feel like enough time has elapsed. It feels like we've been here for 1,000 years already. You know, Lark and Isla look very similar, and we just mentioned that Lark also has green eyes. How come nobody's shitting themselves over how beautiful Lark's green eyes are? Lark does point out that she was kept buried underground for hundreds of years in an underground prison that I don't completely understand, but let's just trust me, it held her for that long. And she's like, Isla, you're being a little bitch baby, because, like, you've only been in prison for, like, a few days, and I was in prison for hundreds of years, so stop whining. All right, Isla finally tells us that actually it seems like Lark is getting worse, not better. So she's not self-healing anymore. She's actually kind of falling apart. She's basically a pile of body parts in the corner. So the gals talk, and Lark is like, Cronin is, like, super powerful. He is completely taken over this world. He basically is this world. He's like Ego. The only thing that he doesn't have his little tendrils in is the storms. He can't control the storms. Here's a line that we probably don't need. With that, Lark stopped speaking. Well, we can tell that she stopped speaking because the last line that she said ended in a period and she didn't keep going. And the following lines do not involve her talking. So I don't think we need with that Lark stopped speaking because we can tell. So Isla closes her eyes and she goes to the pool. She was in a forest of wildflowers. Wildflowers don't usually grow that well in forests. Maybe a valley of wildflowers? A field of wildflowers? Isla sits and thinks for a moment how Oro is definitely the superior man for her. Because, like, he was really gentle and kind and taught her how to use her powers and was very understanding and a good listener. But she's always going to be like, but Grimm understood the darkness in me, and that's way more important than those other qualities. Basically, she's like, I could have Oro, my sunshine boy, who will help me out of my depressive episodes, who is, like, there for me, who wants to listen, who wants to help me. Or I could have Grimm, who wants to wallow in my depressive episodes with me. That sounds way better. That sounds way healthier. So she thinks about Oro, and that fills her with a determination. So maybe she'll bust out in the next chapter. Who knows? I will see you whenever that happens. And it is the next day, and we're back with Oro. Once again, just trying to get a couple of chapters in here. We're back in another dream, I guess. Yay.
I know you. I walked with you once upon a dream.
Oh no, she's just appeared to him. Apparently. Not in a dream anymore. This is a thing that they can do. She can do. Everyone can do. Apparently they're still fully just using this child to their own ends, though, because it says Cinder was needed in the defense against the beasts from the portal, and someday she was the only reason that any of them were still alive. Good, great. I'm glad that this child is being used to defend you when apparently the adults can do jack shit. But Oro's like, you know who'd be really good at helping us defend the portal? My boyfriend, who's no longer here. Bummer. His first question to Isla's Force Ghost or whatever, is how is Grim? So we know where his priorities actually are, of course.
Alright, guy.
We have a ticking clock. Cronin's going to destroy everything in 3 weeks. If Isla doesn't side with him, though, I don't know how he's going to do that. Is he just going to kill her in 3 weeks and call it good? Like, what? I don't completely understand his plan. But Isla says that Oro has changed because now he's using his emotions to fuel his powers, whereas before he never did that. And so, like, he's untethered, he's unhinged now. I mean, we saw unhinged Oro in the desert as well that one time when, in the previous book, when I totally thought it wasn't even Oro because he was behaving so out of character. Maybe he was just using his emotions. It allows him to be angry and say things that he would absolutely never say to Isla. But later he can be like, I'm sorry I said those things. I was just so filled with anger because of, using emotion to fuel my power. But he's like, I wish I'd never met you, Isla. And she's like, hoo, 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 hoo. And I'm like, as if Oro would ever actually say that to her. This is just all contrived so that he can hurt her feelings, so that she can feel even more abandoned. Apparently his eyes change now, which is a thing that I don't remember hearing about in a previous chapter. His eyes keep changing, I guess. And he says his newly changing eyes were the least of his worries. And I'm like, I didn't know that was a worry at all until this exact moment. Isla gives him a little pep talk about how he's like the noblest man she's ever known, but, that's definitely not enough for her to want to be in love with him. Because he has principles outside of just loving Isla. Isla's so selfless, though, that even though she's imprisoned in a cell, being tortured on the daily, she's like, what can I do to help you, Oro? She's just so good, y'all. We could never be as good as Isla. But Oro's like, hey, thought bubble, where's your star stick? He calls it the portaling device because we've stopped calling it a star stick. At this point, I think Aster decided that was a silly name. So we went with portaling device, which isn't better. He's like, where's that? And she's like, I don't know. Lark had it, and then we lost track of it. And Oro's like, aha! I smell a MacGuffin hunt on the wind. So he's got a new assignment, probably. So Isla can just appear to people now from the other dimension. And we're just going to go on to her chapter, because both of these chapters are like 2 pages long. For some reason, Isla decides that now she needs to bargain with Lark, who, again, I remind you, is a pile of body parts on the floor. But she's like, name your price. And Lark says, Cronin's heart on a platter. And Isla says, I'm working on that. And I'm like, are you, though? Because it seems like every single time we check in with you, you are failing very much. You destroyed his Horcrux and couldn't seal the deal, so I think this is a little bit on you. But then Lark is like, also, I want my feather back, my Horcrux back, and Grim has it here. I can sense that he has it. So now she's got to get the feather from Grim, and she's thinking, of course he came to get her immediately, and she's like, how do I get him on my side? I need him on my side. Why don't you try seducing him? That's how you got him on your side the first time. You stabbed him. That didn't deter him at all. And then you had a little makeout sesh, and he was like, oh my gosh, I can't resist this girl, so just do that again. But of course, she thinks of the theme of the second half of this book, and wasn't it just the truest test of love? Seeing if they would be able to fall for each other again and again. Okay, Aster. All right. So Isla's not going to learn the lesson that Grim is actually a horrible person if he's not, like, having sex with you. She's not going to learn that lesson. That is not the takeaway. It's just, oh, I have to just get him on my side again so I can go back to having all the benefits of that relationship that no one else gets. So she thinks that Grimm knows that big chunks of his memory are missing and that he wants answers as to what was there. But, like, when we're in Grimm's point of view, he's never concerned about that. Like, it would be horrifying to suddenly just have whole massive swaths of your recent memory just fully gone. But Grimm is not at all concerned about that. Isla's more concerned about that than Grimm is, and it's his memories that are missing. So this time, instead of taking her to the torture room, Grimm takes her to another room where there are 5 ghostly, beautiful women. Okay? Isla was firmly pushed into another room. Okay, by who? The women? Grimm? Where is this other room? How did she get pushed into it when she was just brought into this room with the ghostly women? The door was closed behind her. Cronin has a bathtub. He's decided that she's looking too grimy, I guess. She's like, I shouldn't accept this, but then she immediately goes, but I am looking pretty gross. I'm pretty stinky, so I guess I can bathe. So she just fully, like, I don't know, I might keep my underwear on in this bath just because Cronin might be watching, and I just don't know if I want that man to see me nude, but she just is fully disrobes, gets in the bath. No further questions about this. It could be full of acid. She doesn't even test it. Just straight into the bath. The ghostly women come in, and they're just cupping. It says they're cupping soaps in their hands. So are these bars of soap, or are they literally just holding liquid shampoo in their hands to, like, pour it out on Isla's head? This seems very inefficient. Is this how Cronin bathes? I don't know. I think it's the Hunger Games' fault. All of these writers now have an obsession with, like, a forced bath scene where a character has to be bathed by other people, like scrubbed until their skin is raw, plucked of all their hair, body hair, all that stuff. I don't know why this is happening now in this fantasy book, in this place, in this time. We're obsessed with, I should have had Vice on the bingo card. So she's looking at herself and she noticed that she looks thinner and paler, and it says, as if Cronin's vice on her and this world was costing her more than her abilities. Cronin's vice. Not Cronin's grasp, not Cronin's control, not Cronin's power over. His vice. She loves the word vice in this book. So she does up her hair really pretty, and I'm like, if I was her, I would take this opportunity to do my hair really, like, efficiently. Like some nice tight braids to keep it out of the way, so that, like, if I have to fight or whatever, or I'm living in a prison cell for several more weeks, I don't have just, like, lanky, gross hair draggling everywhere. And of course, now she has to put on a pretty princess dress. But, of course, it's basically a prom dress, a very slinky prom dress. It's completely sleeveless, so all of her skyers are on full display. Gotta get Our Lady with her badass tattoos, I don't think any of her fan art has those. Like, even stuff that probably should. I don't think it has that. I feel like we should embrace it, ask her start putting the tattoos in the fan art. I think it's because Aster doesn't know what the tattoos look like. And she'd have to describe them to the artist, and she's like, I have no fucking idea. She's got some tattoos on her. They look cool. I don't know. Maybe just let the artist design it. Luckily, she's decided to frame this situation so that in the most positive light. When she looked at herself, she did not see a woman in a revealing dress, primed and painted like a prop. No, she saw a warrior in her armor. This was the battlefield that she had spent her life preparing for ahead of the centennial. She was in her element now and ready to fight. Great for her to think that way, I guess, for her morale. But at the same time, like, when have we ever seen her be good at, like, courtly stuff? All she does is get new powers and fight and get damseled and find MacGuffins. She is never been, like, in a sort of courtly situation, which she assumes she's going to be going into. What if Cronin just wanted her dolled up so he could torture her while she looked pretty? Like, she has no idea. But also, you can't just declare in book, 5? That your character's always been good at this, and this is their element, when we have never seen it, not one time. So, of course, she's, once again, all of these chapters have to end with her being, like, feeling empowered. Anytime she's feeling not very powerful, by the end of the chapter, she'll be feeling empowered again, usually by thinking about her boys. And this time, she thinks Cronin thought that he had everything under control, but Isla was used to being in a cage. She had broken out before. It's giving...
You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it.
That's the end of that chapter, so I'm going to go off and do things, and I'll record another chapter when I next am able. Welcome back. Today's going to kind of be an experiment because I had dental surgery 2 days ago. So we're going to see if talking is too painful. So we read a couple of short chapters. Maybe this will keep me from jabbering as much as I normally do. Probably not. I'm probably just going to jabber and then regret it. But if I sound extra mumbly, it's because of that. So let's go. We're back with Isla. Also, I love how Isla is just like, well, Cronin wants me to dress up in a fancy dress. I guess I'm just going to do it without asking any questions. Like, I mean, yes, who would she ask? But at the same time, she could refuse. Like, I thought Isla was supposed to be a stubborn heroine, you know? She'd be like, no, I'm not wearing your dumb, sexy dress, evil villain man. Okay, I guess we know where Grimm gets it from, because apparently there seems to be some sort of council meeting going on in this room now. There's a big old table and a bunch of dudes sitting at the table. Because Aster loves a council meeting, preferably where somebody gets force choked. So there's a whole bunch of people, like I said, and Grimm is sitting at one side, at one end of the table where there's 2 seats, one of which is empty, right next to him. And then Cronin is at the other side. And it says of Cronin, he was wearing the same dark clothes and cape he usually did. Okay, what do those look like? I mean, I know what a cape looks like, but what do his dark clothes look like? I don't think we know. We get a description of one of the people at the table, though. His beard was shaped as carefully as a maze. Now I'm just picturing that he fully just has a maze, like, in his beard. Like, you could take a pencil and, like, chart it out. He hadn't taken his eyes off the bare skin below her collarbone. You mean her boobs? I think we can say boobs. Or breasts in this book. I think that would be allowed. Her chest, that's what's below her collarbone.
I would tend to look above her breasts, William.
I miss her throat.
So she sits down and she realizes that the silverware is made of bone, and she specifically thinks it's god bones because it reminds her of the god bone. But she's seen other bones before, so that's not like that's the only bone she's ever seen. Earlier it said that Cronin lifted a giant goblet to toast her. He does it a second time, and this time she somehow realizes now that he's drinking out of a skull. She did not realize it before when she just said he had a giant goblet. I don't know how she didn't notice that. Apparently, Cronin has said at some point, I don't remember him saying this, but maybe he did, that he takes requires a bone from each of his followers, and so everybody's missing a finger at this table. Except Grimm. Apparently he hasn't made Grimm do that. Maybe family doesn't have to do that. I do not understand this sentence. His crown flickered again to one of the many it held inside. What does that mean? I can't think of what that could possibly mean. We do learn that the god bone that Isla had is now in his crown, but that previous line still doesn't make any sense. So yeah, they just all sit around eating and drinking out of skulls and laughing raucously, and they're congratulating Cronin on his destruction of this or that planet, because once again, he is Budget Galactus. I would be surprised to find out that Aster was not a Marvel fan. I feel pretty confident in saying that Marvel movies are a large influence on her books, because they are so Marvel-esque. The way that the fights run, the way that people talk, and you know, the superpowered characters, the uber-powered characters who just keep getting more and more powers, that's also very Marvel-esque. And also a problem that the Marvel movies have is that they have superpowered characters that they have to not have use some of the cool powers that they could totally use to instantly win a fight a lot of the time. And that happens all the time in these books. Also, by the way, Isla made a thing in the previous chapter about how, like, yes, she was being all dressed up and primed and polished or whatever, but, like, she had all this training to be so political, you know? This is what she had trained for all her life. She's not doing anything. She walked in and sat down. That is the extent of what she's done. Did she train all her life to look pretty in dress and sit down? It's like Isla is the opposite of that song, you know, that I don't want to sit still, look pretty. Isla does think that she's more badass than Cronin, though, because she's like, I can see with his crown, because his crown keeps changing shape to show different things, that he has only collected power. He's only moving power around, but I absorb power of the people I've killed. Minor detail. So I am actually better than him because I am absorbing the power into myself, whereas he is just like accumulating it but can't absorb it. And that's just a weird thing for her to think about, honestly. So I don't think Isla has said a word in this entire chapter. I don't think she's spoken at all. What happened to, I've been trained for this diplomacy stuff. You know, I've been trained to be courtly my whole life. She just came in, sat down, and listened to Cronin. And he's just talking about conquest. And then it's just done. Aster tries to throw in some message about Cronin being like, ugh, imagine a world where everybody could have power, not just the elites. And I'm like, is that supposed to be Lightlark? Because yes, most people do have power in Lightlark. The elites still have more than anybody else. They still get special powers above and beyond what the ordinary people get. I don't know if you're really making as big of a point as you think you're making there, Aster. If you would like a book that actually does, this is an unintentional plug, but it just occurred to me. The book's way over there, I can't get it. But if you're looking for a book/series that actually does take the idea of what if only the elites have power and then spit in the face of it by saying, nope, everybody has power, the elites have just convinced you that theirs is the best, check out my Adventurer Mage series, where that is a theme. I got so sick of seeing books where it only said only the special people have magic. There are muggles, there's people who don't have magic, you just have to be born special. And I said, F that. In my world, everybody has power. Some people have just been convinced that they don't, because of the elites in society, but we're finding out, as the books go on, more about all of the power that everybody has. There are no muggles in my Adventurer Mage world. So, if you're sick of that notion of like, oh, only the special people have power, if you didn't get born special, too bad. You might like my Adventurer Mage books. Anyway, I'm gonna read one more chapter. We're with Grimm now. Maybe he'll talk, because Isla certainly didn't in that last chapter. Nigel, you are making this extremely awkward. I've got all this set up now with my mic and everything, and he's just like awkwardly hunching on my lap in the way of where I want to put the book. So Isla apparently finally decides to do something now that we're no longer in her point of view, so we don't need to understand why she's chosen to do it. Because if we were in her point of view, we might have to figure out what the fuck is going on in her head, but we're in Grimm's now. So she just throws a fork at Cronin, just straight for his heart like a dart. Okay, I guess that might as well happen. So obviously Cronin doesn't like that, and it doesn't work. Then he magics her so she's floating above the table in a T-pose, which is basically stolen from Harry Potter again. So then he starts torturing her again, so I don't really know why we had to have this scene with all of these people at this dinner, because he's just doing the shadow torture again, and he's displaying her memories like a movie for all of his freaky friends. But conveniently, there's memories that involve Grimm. So he's like, hey, wait a minute. That's like at my castle where this memory is happening. That was at the Centennial. I was at the Centennial, so like, this is just a very convenient way to get Grimm to realize that his memories of Isla have definitely been tampered with, and maybe he should be suspicious. Of course, also, this exists so Grimm can be impressed by her. Oh, she can take so much torture. She's still rebellious. Oh, that's actually really impressive. I'm into that. But again, I remind you that these boys are always into whatever Isla is. She could be anything and they would love her. If she was meek and quiet, he'd love that quality about her. One of the guys, however, is staring at Isla's chest, and Grimm notices, and Grimm gets, like, jealous and protective, because he can't help it. It's just, like, a thing that happens when people are around Isla. He's like, how dare that man stare at her boobs? I want to turn him to ash, and I don't know why. Also, again, he wants to turn people to ash, and I'm like, Grimm, you're not the fire guy, you're the shadow guy. Think about maybe force choking him instead, bud. So now Cronin decides that he's, like, here to punish some random guy. One of the dudes in this group has displeased him, so we're watching Cronin do that now. Guess this guy tried to poison him for some reason. We don't need to know why. But it doesn't work because he's immune to poison. He, like, drinks everything in the poison vial, and then he makes this dude do something really weird. I'm barely understanding it. I'm going to try to explain what I think is happening. So he's like, listen, I can poison you, or I'm going to use the threads of time to make a bunch of time doors, like we already saw when Oro and Grimm went back in time, or Oro went back in time via Grimm. And in each of those time doors, to pass to the next one to get back to the present, you have to fight one of my knights. So you could eventually get back to me, but you have to fight your way here, I think, is what we're saying. It's very difficult to understand, and I'm not positive. Oh, and he's going to do this in front of them. So I thought he'd just sentence him and he'd be gone, and that would be the end of it. But no, we get to watch him go through each of the portals and return again after he's defeated the knight, looking more like ragged and beat up, and then into the next portal. And it's very odd. Why, asked her? Say it with me, this might as well happen. He does not kill all the knights in all of the portals. He is dead.
Hard luck, Dave. Always knew you were a bit weak.
And because the man is dead, apparently he was a representative of one of the planets that Cronin rules over, and so he's like, up that planet, I absorb it now. And it got absorbed into his crown through magic. Isla's such a badass, though, because Cronin's like, anybody else want to try to kill me? And everybody looks down except Isla. She holds his gaze because she's such a badass. She still hasn't said anything, not a single word. This girl who was like trained in courtly behavior, and she was so proud of that. She has said nothing this entire time, and now Grimm is told to take her away. She threw a fork. That is the extent of what she did. So Grimm's taking her out, and he pins her against a wall. For what reason, we don't know. But she's aroused immediately, which he can sense because he can read people's emotions. Oh, apparently, though, Isla was playing 5D chess back at the dinner. She threw the fork so that she could take a bone knife, which is like more powerful, I guess. Where she got it from, is it just a knife that was on the table, or did she take it from somebody? Unclear. Doesn't matter. Isla's a genius, and don't you ever question it. Now Isla's talking, but of course she's being very horny about it. So, she's like, he's frisking her to find the knife, and she's like, oh, if you wanted to know if I was wearing underwear, you should have just asked. Don't worry, though, he put the knife in his pocket. Where knives go. But Isla, as we know, is like the world's best pickpocket, so she just took the knife back and sexily held it to his throat, and that's the end of that chapter. Wow, glad we did those things. Those things might as well happen. Everything in this book is so pointless. But I think I'm going to be done for today because, Nigel's making this really hard for me to do, and this talking has made my mouth sore, so we'll try again tomorrow. We're back again. It is the next day. For me, although I am wearing the same shirt. And we're back with Isla. She oscillates so much between, like, such a damsel and ridiculously hyper-competent. Like, 1 minute she's completely being dominated by everybody, and the next she's, like, stealing daggers away from supervillains and holding things to people's throats, and it's just like, okay. A lot of baring of teeth. That's always been kind of a crutch gesture of Aster's, but it's a lot in this book. People are constantly baring their teeth at each other. But of course, as with any good dagger-to-throat holding sexually tense scene, he plays an Uno reverse card and flips it around, so now he's holding a dagger to her throat. They could just do that indefinitely, just keep flipping. But she's like, hey, I don't think that you fully are on board with Cronin's plan, and he's like, damn it, she's on to me. So now she's like, come on, we could team up. She says, you don't have to be on Cronin's side just because you're related. And then she says, you stop the practice of having heirs fight to the death as children. Well, you don't know that he stopped that. He's just not had any children. For all you know, he plans to keep that up. I don't know why you assume that he's not. But you can't stop a practice if you've never had an opportunity to do it. Like, stopping a practice is like an active choice, and he definitely wants to have kids. So, like, until we actually get to him having kids and not having them fight to the death, we don't know that he's stopped the practice. So she's trying to remind him of who he is through horniness, which we all know is probably the most successful way to do it. So she's like, yeah, remember when you last pressed me up against the wall and you did this and this and this to me? Hope we have lips parted. That was on the bingo card. Did I already cross that one off? Oh, lips parting. Yay. Okay, there's another one. Yes. All right. We'll give this wild tone switches as well. So that's fun. We don't quite have another bingo yet, though. Let's see. I think we'll get most of these by the time we're finished, but that's the only one I'm going to give it right now. Unless he shreds her dress very soon, which could happen. He doesn't fall for it this time. He just takes a dagger and puts it in his pocket and then takes her back to her prison cell. So the only thing that Aster can have going on for more than one chapter, like the only plot point that she can stretch out, is like a will they, won't they. That's the only kind she's figured out how to, like, continue. We are with Grimm again. What a joy. We've forgotten about Oro. We don't care about him, because the next is from Isla again. And then a Grimm, and then Isla. Fuck Oro. Whatever he's doing, it's none of our business. He served the purpose of getting Grimm here so he could fall in love with Isla all over again. We don't need him anymore. A common arc, quote-unquote, that Aster loves, I'm sure you figured out, is I am stoic and I block all my emotions. Oh no, something happened to make me feel emotions. Just over and over and over again. All three of these characters do it. Grimm does it, Oro does it, Isla does it. And, like, it's a fine arc to have for a character. There's nothing wrong with that arc. But for one thing, she doesn't treat it like an arc that arches across an entire book or even series, it usually is within the span of a chapter. Somebody goes, I don't have emotions. I've blocked all my emotions. And then within that chapter they go, oh no, something has happened to make me feel feelings. And now I can do something. And then they'll just start over. In the next chapter, they'll be back to blocking their emotions. And it's like, okay, we need some other things. Some other types of arcs, Aster. Like maybe, I don't know, go to TV Tropes and look up some stuff that you could potentially do. Grimm, though, has decided to flip his personality switch into the guy who cares about his people. You know how there's two Islas, you know, the good Isla and the bad Isla? There's two Grimms as well. There is the Grimm who doesn't give a single fuck, which is the one that we see the majority of the time. And then there is Grimm who actually cares about his people, which we saw in, I believe, the last official book in this series, I think, and this one. But this is not the Grimm that we get all the time. This is certainly not the Grimm that we got during the novellas. So, like, this Grimm only appears every now and then, because Aster does need to give him something else to care about besides Isla, sometimes. So he's like, I don't want to do what Cronin says because he's going to kill my people, and I care about them all of a sudden for some reason. Cronin couldn't know that he was planning against him. Always the planning against, never the plotting. Planning yes, plotting no. Grimm finally mentions that he has gaps in his memory. This is the first we're hearing that he's distressed about it, and it's a line of dialogue, not even in Grimm's own thoughts. Grimm in his own thoughts does not think about the fact that he has memories missing. Cronin's like, yeah, I erased those memories, and you're better off for it, and if there's any other memories that you want me to get rid of, you just let me know. So him and Cronin are hanging out at dinner, and people are bringing in food. There were meats and vegetables and fruits Grimm didn't recognize. I have so many questions about this food, what it is and where it came from, but I'm just gonna not even bother with that. I'm just going to assume that it is magically generated in the kitchens. Oh, something I noticed, and I was going to bring up, is that Aster doesn't often describe what people look like, what they're wearing, that sort of thing, except for, like, if they're Grimm, they're very, very tall, and they have dark hair and pale skin. Like, but that's about all we know. And he likes to wear black, but what kind of clothing does he wear? Undescribed. But she will describe a side character in sort of unnecessary detail. Like in the previous scene, she described a couple of the people who were at the dinner and what they were wearing and what they looked like and what their skin color was and everything for no reason, because we're never going to see those people again. Those are the kind of people that you can skimp on the descriptions for, versus, like, we never know from day to day what any of the main characters are wearing unless Isla needs to put on a really slinky dress. So we cut to a scene of him leading Isla to a cell at some point, and she's like, hey, do you remember Wraith? And he's like, yes. And she goes, do you remember how you got him? And he's like, oh, that memory is missing. Well, yeah, sweet baby boy. You've got a lot of missing memories you don't seem to notice unless somebody brings it up. She says, I found him, we raised him together, which if you recall took about 10 minutes. That dragon became an adult, full-size dragon in, like, 2 weeks, like, legitimately. But she has found his weak spot. She's like, what if Cronin wants a dragon for himself and he takes Wraith? And Grimm is like, oh, no, I can't let that happen. Not my baby boy. So now Grimm is sitting there wondering, like, maybe Cronin taking away my memories was a bad thing, actually. He's a real thinker, this one. Then he finally thinks to ask her, hey, how'd you get that diamond? And she's like, you gave it to me. And he is shooketh to his core. Like, she has rattled the foundations of his being, knowing that, apparently. That's all she needed to tell him this whole time. So she's like, you're also wearing a necklace, Grimm, haven't you noticed? And he's like, huh, I am. And it says he had bathed several times here, but he hadn't looked at himself in a mirror. You can realize that you're wearing a necklace without looking at yourself in a mirror. Does Aster think that's the only way that you can figure out if you're wearing something? He couldn't, like, feel it? No, apparently not. So Isla's just pointing out things to him like, you have a necklace you can't take off as well. You have a scar above your heart that I gave you, even though you erased all of your other scars. So it's just going pretty much exactly as you assumed it would go, as we all assumed it would go. That's how it's going. So yeah, then it ends with a snappy line that I'm sure Aster thinks that she ate with, but honestly it's not that good. I'm not even going to bother reading it. And we're back. We're going to read a little bit more today, and then I am going to be done. I'm getting closer to the end of this thing. Progress is being made, but I got to read fast because these have got to come out before the new Saviors book comes out. We're back in Isla's point of view. So Isla reminds us of her 2 goals, one of which I had already forgotten about. She wants to find her star stick, which Lark should know the location of, though Lark is still a pile of body parts in the corner. And she wants the feather from Grimm. Those are her 2 MacGuffin goals at the moment. Grimm shows up, he takes Isla to bathe again. I guess she's getting like regular baths now. For some reason, I don't know why. Are they trying to like win her over by giving her amenities? Is that the plan? But Grimm is there, of course, and he's being all growly. And they just go right back into their conversation from the previous chapter, which is exactly what you expected, about him being reminded of their life and them falling back in love. Like, I don't think this is going to do anything that you couldn't already very easily guess. You have her mouth parting again instead of her lips parting, which always makes me think that the mouth just, like, comes off of her face. He's got her pinned against the wall again. We love to do that. Like, Isla and Gribb's love language is pinning each other against walls. Isla's now just giving us a recap of what happened in the previous books. This doesn't sound right. He was the first to drop her gaze, so they're like staring at each other very intensely. I think it should be he was the first to drop his gaze, not her gaze. You don't drop someone else's gaze when you look away. So Isla recaps a bunch of stuff that happened in their past. Very boring. We've read it. We've read the previous books. And it doesn't work, and then she's taken to dinner. Apparently, putting her in pretty dresses and taking her to dinner is their new strategy for winning her over. So Isla thinks about plans of escape, doesn't come up with anything until the very end of the chapter when she looks at Lark and is like, how bad do you want that feather? And I don't know what her plan is. I can only expect that she's going to start beating the guards with Lark's various severed body parts. That would not surprise me. But we're just going to keep going on to chapter 62, which is still Isla, so we get to find out. And I don't actually know why this was split into 2 chapters, really. Okay, I guess that is what she's doing. My joke guess seems to be correct. She's not using, like, limbs. She grabs one of Lark's ribs and breaks it off. Dick move, by the way. So she draws a guard over to her, and she's going to stab them with the rib. That might as well happen. She's very strong, though, for being such a teeny tiny girl. We are often reminded of how teeny tiny she is when it comes to Grimm. So she stabs the guard, like right in the neck, which is the only place where she finds a gap in his armor. And so he's armored, fully kitted out in armor. And she catches him through the bars, she catches him before he can hit the ground and make a loud noise. And I'm like, wow, this girl is quite strong to catch these giant men in their full armor. And then the door unlocks with like a fingerprint, so she uses his hand to unlock the door. Turns out that escaping from her cell was super easy, barely an inconvenience. And also, Lark could be a potential, like, endless supply of bone weapons. Fortunately, she's had plenty of time to memorize a lot of the routes around this castle because she's constantly being led places, so she's on the move. So I kind of like this idea, although it is undoubtedly not going to be well utilized and is very briefly described. But she wants to go to the part of Cronin's castle where she thinks all of these, like, heads of planets live. All of these rulers of their various planets that Cronin has kept alive. So she goes over there, and each of their, like, little wings, they each get their own, like, little set of apartments or whatever, are different. Because they all come from different planets, so they're all designed differently to suit all of their various needs. We're not going to find out probably in what ways, but I like that idea, and I think a better author could really do something fun with it. So she finds a room that she knows is Grimm's. How does she know? She just did, because she knew him. Good. I just picture it looking like an emo kid's bedroom, you know? Lots of My Chemical Romance posters and stuff. Oh, but Grimm is here, and he's in the tub, so they can relive one of their other memories, that time that she was in his bathtub. So the only things that were described in this room, and she purposely says that everything is very sparse. He has a bed, he has a desk with a chair. Those are the things that are in Grimm's room that we have been told. But apparently he also has lots of places to rummage through because she spends a considerable amount of time going through his stuff looking for the feather. And I'm like, what are you going through? Are you peeling up floor tiles? But Grimm finishes with his bath time, and he comes out wearing just a towel, you know, draped around his hips all sexy like. And if you guessed that his reaction was to pin her against the wall, you are correct. I guess I had to have Grimm pins Isla to the wall as one of my bingo squares. So he gets dressed in a flash, so I'm assuming he uses his shadows to do it. He puts on black clothes and armor. Quotes from the book here. Isla is so close to understanding this. She's so close to grasping the fact that Grimm is an awful person, and the fact that he was nice to her because they were doing it was a red flag. But she's not going to get it. But he rats her out. He calls a guard, and she says, "You're a bastard." And I'm like, yeah, correct. Again, you're not getting it. She's just determined to be like, no, I just have to make him fall in love with me again. Which is like so abusive relationship coded that I can't even like, because many times people could be in an abusive relationship and think, oh, I just need to make him love me again and he'll stop being awful to me. No, that's not how that works, Isla. You're so close to getting it. So he takes her to Cronin, of course, and Cronin's like, how did you escape? She's like, I'll never tell. So Cronin's going through her brain again, and it says, Oro was the reason behind looking for the feather. So she sealed him out of her brain. Where did she put him? Where is he? Is he floating around in her skull? Where did she put him? And now that she's sealed Oro out of her brain, she thinks about love, because that would confuse Cronin. But she also is like, the reason that I escaped and was in Grimm's room was to have sexy times with him, not to find the feather. She also manages to get one of her hands free of his magic, and she grabs Grimm's ankle. I didn't know he was close enough for her to do that, but she does. And she just, I don't know why she decides that this is a thing that will work, but of course it does, because Isla came up with it. The reason she grabbed his ankle is because she's thinking memories, sexy time memories, probably love memories about Grimm to confuse Cronin, but she, for some reason, thinks that she can transfer a memory to Grimm if she touches him in this moment. I don't know where she came up with that, how she came up with that, but she does, and it works, because she's Isla, so of course it does. And the next chapter, I might just read this next chapter too, because it is 2 pages long. She does send him a sexy time memory. So yeah, she just sends him a horny memory of a time that they did it. That's the whole chapter. It's just a memory of them doing it. So yeah, nothing really to report there. I'll see you when I see you for the next chapters. Good morning. We are going to keep charging through this. We are actually making like visible progress. I feel like we are treading water. Like I feel like we're no closer to an ending. There's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of MacGuffin hunting. Every 10 pages we need a new item that's totally going to get us out of this situation. So let's see. We're back with Isla, and then I think maybe after this we'll be back with Oro finally, so we can find out what the fuck he's doing. Nope, we're back. Just Isla again. And then Grimm. Okay, well, we're not... Forget Oro. Pretend he doesn't exist. He's not important. Just like Lark being... Lark, at this point, is a weapons pile. Because Isla can just grab her bones and use them to kill people. But we're back with Isla. She just sent Grimm... Of all of the memories to send him, she's like, she knows her man. At least we'll give her that. She knows her man. She's like, of all the memories to send him, I need to send him a horny one to get him on my side. Because that is, I mean, we read the novella. The novella was just all the scenes we'd already seen of Isla and Grimm, but from the point of view of his penis. So, and apparently, I mean, that would be incredibly invasive, honestly. Like... If Grimm was to have a realistic reaction, it says Grimm began visibly recoiling whenever she was near, and I'm like, yeah, if it was me, I'd be recoiling too if someone touched me and sent me a memory, a vision of the two of us doing the dirty. Like, they were full, it was just, the last chapter was just a sex scene. It was just a sex scene. If somebody, without my permission, transmitted porn into my head, I would be mad too. I wouldn't want to make eye contact with them. But I'm sure it's just because Grimm is now so turned on all the time around her. It is kind of inappropriate, Isla, to transmit porn into someone's head without their permission. Just saying. You learn something about Grimm that is a little, this is the sort of little dumb detail that I like to know, but it's weird that it's been like 5 books and we're only bringing it up now. Grimm eats with his offhand because he likes to keep his dominant hand ready to grab his sword to fight. And like, that's the sort of dumb bullshit I love to know about characters, but it feels weird that we're finally bringing it up 5 books in. But she figures out, the reason we know this now, is that she figures out he's injured his offhand, I think, is what she's saying, because he's eating with his dominant hand and he never used to do that. And she's like, oh, he has an injury, so we can have a girl heals his injury moment, even though we know of Grimm that, like, this has got to be a pretty serious injury if he doesn't just, like, walk it off. Because he was pierced by, was it 12 or 15? I can't remember. I think it was 12. 12 arrows through his torso, and that, like, barely slowed him down. So this man is incredibly durable. The only injury that I think would stop Grimm from using his arm is if you chopped it off.
'Tis but a scratch. A scratch? Your arm's off.
Although she does, I will give credit, Isla does go, you know, usually things don't hurt him. Like, the only time I've actually seen him be injured is when the Drex stabbed him, and the Drex have, like, this poison, this Grimm defeating poison in their weapons. But she's like, he's not telling Cronin about his arm, and that means that I have a chance to sway him to my side, because it means he's not completely on Cronin's side, which is an interesting leap for her to make, but I mean, I was pretty sure she already knew he wasn't completely on Cronin's side. Oh, okay. Isla guesses on the next page that Grimm has given himself a Skyer. She's like, there's nothing that can hurt this man. She jumps to the conclusion that he gave himself a Skyer, and that's why his arm is sore. So he shows her his arm, and it is indeed the Skyer, and it's like something is trying to erase it, but like it's trying to heal itself, but he won't let it heal itself, or like his powers won't, or something like that. And she's like, oh, that's how he's using his powers in this world. It's not because he's Cronin's relative. I don't know what was wrong with like him being Cronin's relative being the reason he has powers here, but it's the Skyer, I guess. Which means that she has now seen it, which means that she could potentially do this herself. I wonder if she'll think of that.
Get used to disappointment.
But I was like, I can't do anything about this. I need to go ask the pile of bones and flesh in my corner that I'm calling Lark if she knows how to solve it. If I was Lark, I would be so mad. Like, no one is trying to help her. She's just literally a pile in a corner. Isla stole one of her ribs, which is not going to heal itself with any haste. And now Isla's like, hey, I need you to help me and my boyfriend with something. I would be like, I need you to fuck all the way off. So Isla makes an assumption that is totally going to be correct because she's the main character. Hey, Lark, your flare is super healing, so your blood must be a healing agent. Obviously. That's the obvious leap. Of course. Like, that's the most obvious thing. Why didn't I think of it? So give me some of your blood, even though I remind you that her healing isn't working here. Not nearly very well, because she, again, pile of body parts in a corner. Her chest is, like, wide open. I'm not even sure her head is attached at this point. But, like, no, steal her blood and use it to heal your boyfriend. That's fine. Now, they could just take her blood, because, again, as I keep reiterating, she is a pile of body parts on the floor. But instead they're asking her permission for some reason. Isla's like, what do you want in exchange for your blood? And of course she's like, I want Grimm to give me my feather back. So that's what we're doing, I guess. But Grimm, of course, has the feather in his pocket, and Isla's like, dang it, that's why I didn't find it in his room. He always has it on him, even when he bathes. Lark is not very tactical in her thinking, because Grimm is like, why do you want this feather? And she's like, it's part of my soul, I need it back. She basically cops to it being her Horcrux. And I'm like, that is a very, very stupid thing to say, lady. Just say it's super magical and you need it for something. Don't admit that if they destroy that thing, they could kill you. So Grimm, we're in Isla's point of view, but Grimm looks at Lark like he's considering just taking her blood, which, you know, as I mentioned, could be a thing. But conveniently, Lark is like, oh no, you can't just take my blood. My healing blood is not so easily taken. So thank God we established that by saying, nope, can't do it. This is like two children. Okay, you know when kids play and they'll be like, I destroy you with my laser beam. And then the other one goes, no, because I brought my laser beam deflecting armor today. And then the other one goes, but I upgraded my laser beam to go straight through laser beam deflecting armor. Well, while you were doing that, I upgraded my armor too. So now it deflects laser beam deflecting armor penetrating lasers. Like, that's how this book is written. She keeps coming up with issues and then being like, oh, I need this to not happen, so I'll just make up another thing. So, like, they need Lark's blood, but I need them to not just take her blood. So I'm going to say that they can't just take her blood because of reasons. It's just, that's Alex Astor, that's how she writes. So Grimm's like, okay, I need to give her back the feather because I need this Skyer to be, like, not erased or something. I don't know. He gives her the feather. Lark immediately starts to reassemble once she finally gets the feather back. But she gives a blood droplet to Isla, not Grimm. And she's like, I'm trusting this to you, and I'll know if you use it for something else. And I'm like, or you could just use it on Grimm right now, right here, right now, and ensure that it doesn't get used for anything else because you did it. I don't, whatever.
Where everything's made up and the points don't matter.
But the important thing is that they have to have this like special healing moment in Grimm's room where things could turn romantic. Also, I'm pretty sure they just left the cell door open. Like, I don't think Aster thought of that. But they went into Lark's cell. No mention of like shutting the door or anything. So I'm just picturing them going in there, planning to go back out, because Lark is a pile of pieces, or was a pile of pieces in the corner. And then once they got her blood droplet, he teleported them to his room. So I'm just imagining that they fully just left the door open, and now Lark is reconstituted, she could just walk out. So it said earlier that Lark gave her 1 drop of blood, but now it says that Isla's fingers are blood-soaked. So is 1 drop, was it a really big drop? Oh, conveniently, Grimm is like putting an illusion over the Skyer so that she can't see what shape it is. So that she can't just go, oh, now I know, I'll just do it to myself. So Isla drops the L word in this healing sequence, and he flips out and has a temper tantrum and teleports her back to her cell, where conveniently Lark is still there. We're supposed to fill in that the characters always do the smartest things and, shut the door. How long is this next chapter? Yeah, I guess I can do this next one too. Let's keep going. Chapter 65. Also, Isla. So because Isla traded the feather for a healing blood droplet for Oro, now Lark is like, well, our deal is off. I can't give you information about the Star Stick anymore because I said feather for Star Stick. You got me the feather and traded it for something else. That's on you, babes. Why don't the boys, well, I guess it's not the boys anymore. Why doesn't Oro use the panther and the dragon to sniff out the Star Stick next? Because it's gotta smell like Isla. He used it to sniff out the ring. Why not the Star Stick? I don't understand. Unless it's here. Unless it's in this dimension with them. So after everything that Isla's been through, all of the horrible torture, having her mind flayed open, being kept in a freezing prison cell, the fact that Grimm rejected her again, we're meant to believe that this is her breaking point. Like, this is her lowest point. Couldn't get any worse than this, specifically. Right now, at the dinner. She's at dinner with Cronin. She's wearing a pretty dress again. I don't know why he's doing this every night. Who cares? That might as well happen. But, speaking of might as well happen, all of a sudden the doors swing open and his weird knights come in dragging somebody. And it's Jessel, that random woman that Isla befriended. Oh, it's Jessel's entire village. I guess they ferreted out her village. We get to see that, or at least we're shown by Cronin, who could be lying, that Jessel and her village are rebels that were slowly, plotting against him and killing his knights whenever they could and stuff like that. Cronin is just a weird little dude. So he's like, I'm going to offer you guys second chances. And I thought maybe he was going to do that same thing with the time portals, and, if you can kill one of my knights and every time you can come back. But no, he's got something different. He's like, I'm going to make each of you try to fight me, and if you can wound me, you can live. Obviously, that's not going to work because he's a super powerful evil guy. But I'm just like, why does Cronin do anything? Does he sit around at night thinking of okay, if somebody opposes me, this is the weird ritual thing that I'm going to make them do to potentially survive? Cronin needs a hobby. Maybe, I don't know, could he do some Sudoku or something? Crosswords? I don't know. Play Tetris? Isla is being forced to, of course, watch as one by one the villagers come forward and are easily killed by Cronin. Oh, don't worry, lest Isla do something heroic. We are actually having a moment with Grimm, because he reaches over and puts a hand on her thigh to, warn her not to do something stupid. And I'm like, good. I'm glad that he's still encouraging her not to try to help people. Isla finally decides, after watching pretty much everyone in the village get killed, and then it's her friend's turn, and then Isla decides, even though Grimm is gripping my leg in a very sensual way, I need to do something, so she stands up. Okay. Now, we know that Isla's got a plan. She's a schemer. She's got a plan. So we're going to probably find out in the next chapter or two what her plan was. But she says, I want to do it. I want to play. So give Jessel the knife, and if she can wound me, she can live. And then Isla, being a badass fighter, easily dodges and grabs the knife from Jessel and slits her throat, or at least that's what we see. We are going to stop there for the moment because I have other things to do today. I will see you for the next chapter. Hello, good morning.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
We are here with more of this. Let's go. We're back with Grim. Isla just appeared, at least, to kill a peasant. We'll see if that was actually true, or maybe she just did. Because you never know with Isla. You can never be quite sure. Like, with a different character, I would know what is in character for them to do in this situation. Whether for sure they were faking it, or whether they actually did it. But with Isla, she is so random. In fact, any of Astra's characters, I'd be like, which is it today? And all Astra has to do is be like, well, Isla is like two halves. So this was her evil half, you know, anytime she wants Isla to do something unscrupulous. And I don't know which we have today. Grim doesn't buy that she killed this person. He does mention that he can sense her emotions, but he can't tell. What emotion is she having right now? Is she happy? Like, what, brutal? Like, what emotion would come from, like, killing somebody? Is she upset about it or not? But he's like, I just can't tell. I just can't tell with her right now, for some reason. He needed to know if she was working on a plan against him, and I'm like, these characters don't plan. They wait around until the plot drops something useful in their lap, and then they act. That's how this goes.
Could be smiling with a ferret or a hoblin.
I mean, this is Jadzia, she was already here, hanging out with me. That is the shark.
Hi, Murray.
Shark, 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 shark. Chompy, chompy, shark. Hiccups. I had hiccups. So Grim goes down to the prison cell and he hears Isla crying and he's like, okay, so she definitely killed that woman. He remembers that her power is absorption. I guess Cronin told him that at some point. So he's like, she probably killed that woman in hopes of keeping her alive somehow. So now I'm wondering if what's eventually going to happen is that Isla will eventually spit back out all of the soul fragments that she has inside of her, like in the next book, probably not this book. Will she, like, spew forth all of the soul fragments, and then it'll bring everybody back to life? Does she have to kill... I mean, she can't do that for Cleo's son, because he's already dead, unless he's alive here, and she has to go find him here and kill him here so that she can go back. I don't know. Many theories about this weirdness. But apparently she did kill that lady, so... But Grim is moved because he thinks that for sure she did something. Even if it wasn't very effective. He's like, she did something to preserve that one innocent. Nobody else, just the one. All right, and that's the end of the chapter. Grim goes back to his room, probably to have a good sulk, and we are back with Oro. Finally, we find out what he's doing. You know how earlier in the book I talked about how it can be tough to balance points of view when you have two characters who are together? Whose point of view do you choose? I tend to default to whoever is like the main storyteller of the book. But now that Grim and Oro are apart... now would be the time when it would be more reasonable for you to go back and forth between them. But we had a whole big chunk without any Oro in it because we don't care about Oro. Like, I can feel the author not caring. I've already checked off. The author has checked out on the bingo card, but I would do it again. Anyway, we're back with Oro, chapter 67. Oro's on the balcony. Isla appears to him. That's like basically when we check back in with him, it's so he can hang out with Isla a little bit. Not so we can find out how he's dealing with the fact that apparently, like, island-eating monsters are spewing out of this portal. But don't worry, he's got a child handling it. He does notice that Isla is wearing a pretty dress, and that makes me wonder. I have a whole bunch of questions about this. She gets sent back to her cell in her pretty dress every night. Her dirty, dank, gross cell. So is she getting a new dress every day to replace the old one because the old one would be all stinky and stuff from being in the cell? Or is that dress just like magically staying clean? And also, wouldn't her cell be kind of cold to be in like a slinky dress, you know, with sleeveless, slit up the side, all of that, tits out, you know, like wouldn't she be freezing? Don't worry about that stuff, Julian. She's wearing a pretty dress. That's all we care about. Okay, we do find out that he finally sent the child home to rest for a little while. So I guess they're having a break between monsters because he's hanging out on his balcony and the kid is resting. So basically all this chapter exists for is for Isla to get a pep talk from Oro's point of view. So he's like, we need the star stick. And she's like, oh, but I am so depleted. Oh, I'm about to give in, which is like every other chapter. She's in that state. You cannot convince me that this time is the time that she's like got no strength left. But Oro just gives her a little pep talk about how she can do it. And she's like, you're right, I can. And that's the end of the chapter. So, yep, that was it. That was our Oro chapter. That's all we find out from that guy. We're back with Isla. We could have done that from her point of view, honestly. Do I have time to do this today? Maybe not. Well, I might have time. It's a little bit longer of a chapter, though. Maybe if I don't stop every 10 seconds. She thinks that Cronin is suspicious of her motivations for killing Jessel, and then like, well, this would be a perfect time for you to explain to us your motivations. Or are we supposed to assume that Grimm guessed correctly, and therefore we never need to find out from your point of view why you did that? I feel like that's probably what it is.
Oh, you're right. And when you're right, you're right.
Aster loves a ticking clock, though. She loves a time limit. I think almost all of her books have a time limit of some kind. And this one, they've got 10 days left before all hell breaks loose in some way. I guess maybe he kills her and just takes her stuff. He really wants her to join him, but he's like, I will at some point just kill you. Of course, even the bad guy has to glaze the main character. We know this to be true in this type of book. So he's like, yeah, Grimm's an okay, follower for me. But you, I can tell that you have a superior mind. You have vision. I need you, Isla.
Gee golly gosh, Glorioski, thought Mary Sue as she stepped on the bridge of the Enterprise.
She's having tea with Cronin, and I cannot help but picture this giant, evil, armored man with an enormous bone crown, just like, sipping tea, just daintily. Okay, we finally get, Cronin just straight up asks her why she killed that lady, and we are finally getting her thoughts on it. And yes, of course, Grimm was right. She was like, Jessel was gonna die anyway, so I figured the best thing to do would be kill her myself so I could have her power. It would have been cool if maybe she tried to whisper that to Jessel during the fight, like maybe fight a little bit and get close to her and be like, I'm sorry, I can't save you, but I'm gonna try to like at least preserve some part of you or something, But instead, she just killed her. She didn't feel him scrummage through her mind. Is that supposed to be rummage? Or is scrummage a word that is applicable here? I don't think it is, but I could be wrong about that. I will definitely be looking that up when I'm in editing mode. She didn't feel him scrummage through her mind. Oh, Isla. So she and Cronin are just having a convo. He's trying to convince her to his side. And he's like, why are you doing this for a world that hates you? Because we're supposed to believe that Isla's old world, Lightlark, thinks that she's an evil villain. Even though we all know that they all love her, actually. But she says, I was born to rule, like I'm doing this out of a sense of duty. And he's like, what do you think ruling means? And she's like, I don't think ruling means killing and controlling. I think it means helping people, sacrificing for them. And I'm like, you don't help people, ever. You don't give a fuck. You rule like 3 nations, at least 2, possibly 3 at this point. And you don't care. You cannot hide this from us, Isla, because we've been in your point of view for all the books before this, and we know that you are the most negligent ruler. Every now and then you remember to wander over there and see how things are going, and then you're just told things are going great without your help, Isla, go back to whatever you're doing, and that's it. That's the extent of her ruling. This would be a great place, though, for her to finally touch back on her original goal that was in the very first book, where she didn't want to be a ruler, she wanted to go explore the world. And that would have been great because, Isla clearly doesn't want to be a ruler, but the author has kind of forgotten about her desire to go explore. So Isla's just negligent. Here, she could be like, but, it is my duty to rule, but I never wanted that. I wanted to go explore, and I'm a little bit getting to do that now. Maybe I don't want that either because this is scary, but, do something with that idea. But it turns out that Cronin was the one who created Nexus, who bound all of the rulers physically to their people, so that when the ruler dies, the people die. And he's basically like, it makes it way easier to take out a large number of people. Cronin changes the subject, and he's like, hey, have you ever seen a silver pool? And then he just goes into her brain. I don't know why he bothered to ask out loud, honestly. Fortunately, of course, because she's Isla, she manages to conceal the silver pool from him in the back of her head. She decides for some reason as she's being dragged back through the castle to antagonize the knights, who I thought were just faceless automatons, but apparently they're not quite, because she's antagonizing them and they decide to beat her head against a wall. Mostly it's to show what a badass she is. She's so tough, she's so unflappable. And of course so Grimm can rescue her. So apparently Grimm's shadows do just heat up a lot, because he reduces the guards to ash, and their metal armor, shade-made metal, he melts it. He melts it with shadows. So I guess Grimm's shadows, very hot, actually. But now that she's all injured, Grimm can princess carry her back to his room. So she and Grimm are having a back and forth about them being in love. And she says, I have to believe this ending will be the same too. He says, death, you mean? She shook her head. It made her dizzy, and she groaned. No, death isn't the end. It was the start, really. In what way? I mean, I guess technically she did die, and he did bond himself to her. So I guess in that way, death kind of is the start? Or was she talking about when she slaughtered an entire village, which we did find out was mostly empty by that point. So Grimm is not going to help her this time because he's not quite so in love with her this time. So he just gives her the supplies, bandages and needle and thread and stuff, because she also injured her hands at some point. It's really unimportant. And he's like, you can fix yourself up. And of course Isla does, because she's a complete badass and we can never have her be unable to do something. She's just like, well, it's just going to be harder. So she's stitching up her own hands, while having probably even more head trauma than she previously had, because I have a theory that the reason Isla acts like this is that she has a lot of serious brain damage. Grimm eventually gets sick of watching, though, and he does help. And Isla's like, see, you are healing me, so everything's going exactly as it did the last time. We are fated to be like this anytime where we are separated from each other. It'll come back to, we have to hate each other, and then you have to like me, and then you heal me, and then we fall in love again. Which does very much point out how often this author has reused the exact same plot, with the exact same characters. So that's the end of the chapter. They just talk about their love, and how fated it is, blah, 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 blah. Don't care. Anyway, I'll see you for the next chapter when I see you. Good morning, ferrets are out, laundry is going, but we are getting so close to the end of this book, I have no idea. As per usual with Astra's books, I have no idea what the climax is going to be. Like, what are we gonna do? What is it gonna be? She's sort of barely fallen back in love. Well, she's still in love with old Grimsby. He's not really back in love with her, so that I imagine there's gonna be some kind of big moment at the very end where he's like, my wife! Or something. But she loves a cliffhanger, so I'm sure it will not really end so much as just stop. But we are getting close to the point where I could do my cosplay. I might even get to do that this weekend, so that would be exciting. Let's read a couple more chapters. We're finally back with Oro for like 10 seconds before we abandon him again. Why isn't he using the dragon? Is he just not allowed because it's Grimm's dragon? I mean, Grimm, let your boyfriend use your dragon while you're gone. But Oro has to fly to Nightshade because he's pretty sure that's where the Star Stick is. And we need the Star Stick. That's our MacGuffin of the day. But he's got to fly there, like, himself, physically. I mean, I feel like some options. Could you not ask the Skylings for help? I bet you they could get you there faster. Again, the dragon, not an option, I guess. Where is the dragon? Who fucking knows? But he's gonna have to physically fly there, and we established in a previous book that takes a couple days. I love how, like, Isla can just project thoughts from the other world, and we've never established this as an ability that she has, nor have we ever explained why she can do it, nor has anybody ever wondered. Like, nobody even goes, why can she do that? When has that been one of her powers? It's just a thing we're supposed to completely take for granted that she can do. He sees a vision of the silver woman, the silver girl, who's, I'm gonna have a light guess that maybe it's Isla's mom. Probably not that. I don't feel like it is that, but I could see that as a possibility, that this silver lady that's just suddenly appeared for this episode, which is what I would call this book. Her books aren't books, they're like TV episodes. For this episode, we have a silver lady.
Are you the protectors of this world?
I would be shook if I found out that Astra was not a Marvel fan, because, like, the evidence is there. It'd be like if somebody read my books and picked up all of the BioWare, like, Easter eggs that I put in them, and then found out that I had never played a BioWare game in my life. The Silver Lady makes him see the pool, the magical pool of lung water. It says the pool of possibilities has chosen Oro. I didn't know pools could do that, but I guess they can.
The ring of requirement only appears when a person has real need of it.
Say it with me. That might as well happen. This is not something I think of a surface of water doing. So the spot ripples, and then it says the surface wobbled. I think of, like, Jell-O as wobbling, not water. But he's now, even though he's flying through the air, he's having a vision of the pool, and he's looking into the pool like Simba with Rafiki, and seeing an image of a choice he'll have to make, I guess. This is another example of how Astra writes. When she wants something to happen, she just has it happen. Like, Oro didn't go to the pool. He didn't think of this himself. He's literally doing something else, at the same time as plot is happening to him against his will. That's how Aster writes. She has no idea, none, about storytelling flow. And she has no interest in learning, I'm pretty sure. I am more of a storyteller than I am a writer. In my writing life, the craft of writing has been something that I had to grind on a lot more. I had to steadily learn. I had to get those skills. But I have a sort of more innate feeling of how stories work, how they flow, roughly when beats should fall. That's something that's a little bit more instinctive to me, what elements stories need. Implementing them with the actual craft took longer for me. It took more work for me. Aster has never been particularly good at the craft. She's also not good at stories. So I'm starting to wonder why she's writing books. Isn't there you've got a lot of money, Aster. Isn't there something else you could be doing with your creative mind? I think she's really good at thinking up ideas, and that's about as far as her skills go. She could improve any of these skills if she actually tried and put in the work. That's the most infuriating thing. It's like if she actually had any incentive to work on this, she could become good. Skills take practice. I think she's like backsliding on her skills because she's in a hug box of publishers and fans telling her that she's an amazing writer and she's written such good books because she's making money. If she stopped making money, her publishers would stop lying to her and all of that would be gone. But she's bringing in the dollary dues, man.
Didn't even try, made lots of money. Didn't even try, made lots of money.
So for some reason, I don't know why this is happening because Aster just literally thought of it just now. He's seeing in the pool of possibilities the time that Egan was like, Oro, I'm going to run away with my top secret girlfriend who I'm cheating on my fiance with, and I'm going to leave you as king. And Oro asked the pool if he could see what would have happened if Egan hadn't done that. But it didn't change anything because Egan apparently, even though he didn't abdicate, just kept cheating on his fiance, and then she found out eventually and did the exact same thing. So the not abdicating, basically, Egan didn't need to add insult to injury by telling his brother, here, I'm going to leave you with this incredibly thorny political situation and fuck off. But everybody knows that romantic love is the strongest force in the universe. So Oro asks, hey, what if Egan had never fallen in love with Violet, the girl he was cheating on his fiance with? And the pool's like, that's impossible. He falls in love with her in every single timeline. So apparently, Grimm was the one who found the heart of Lightlark. I don't remember any of this at all. Possibly we were told it in one of the books, but like, you think it would have come up in the frickin' novellas where we saw this stuff go down, but I swear to you it did not. We never knew what Grimm had supposedly done to help cause the curses, but apparently Grimm found the heart of Lightlark, off-page, and gave it to Aurora, and Aurora used the heart to spin the curses. Okay, I guess that's what happened. Sure, I have to believe you. I don't remember that, but I mean, there have been a lot of books, so maybe I forgot details. Oro has been acting like he has no idea what Grimm did. And in fact, he's like, you know, Grimm didn't actually do anything. I don't know why I was so mad at him. But now we find out that Grimm did do something? Why didn't we ever think about that when we were mad at Grimm? Why didn't we ever go, hey, Grimm, it was a real dick move of you to give the heart of Lightlark to Aurora. You remember doing that, buddy? But he's like, what if Grimm had never done that? If Grimm had never done that, apparently Aurora would have just gotten her revenge the old-fashioned way and just gone rampage through the castle killing everyone, including Oro. So it's good that the curses happened, actually, because otherwise it just would have been regular old homicide and then everybody would have died. Because Oro would have died and he's an origin and his brother would have, you know, him and his brother's deaths would have caused everything to crumble. Lightlark would have completely perished. So it's good that Grimm gave the crazy lady the heart of Lightlark.
No! It's just dumb!
He doesn't think about, well, what if there was a timeline where we stopped Aurora? Like, what if, you know, does she only ever kill people? Like, there's no timeline where we go, actually no, and kill her instead, or imprison her or something? You know, this is all Egan's fault, and I kind of wish we explored that more, because he didn't have to cheat on his fiancée for years and years and years. Just so many years. Before finally getting caught. None of this would have happened. The book is like, oh, casting the curses was better, actually. And I'm like, you know what would have been better? If Egan hadn't been such a little fuckboy. But now, of course, Oro's like, Grimm actually did the right thing by giving her the heart of Lightlark. And it's like, or Grimm could have just realized that she was going to fuck them all over and killed her. He's like the most powerful dude in the world. He didn't have to give her the heart of Lightlark. I feel like there could have been other options. Or maybe Grimm could have worked with her to just kill Egan. Like maybe he could have convinced her, hey, let's just get Egan. Or it wouldn't have had to be collateral. I feel like there are so many other branching choices here, but the pool's like, nope. The options are the curses are cast or everyone dies. So now Oro can be like, wow, Grimm really didn't do anything wrong. Even though he had no idea of that at the time. Do I have Grimm apologetics on here? I think I took it off, but I did have Grimm apologetics on some of them. No, I took it off. He asked what would happen if he'd never fallen in love with Isla, and once again the pool is like, impossible, you fall in love with her in every timeline. Oro's just playing around with the pool. Like, he's flying over the ocean, but he's just playing around with the magic pool in his own brain. That he can just, that's just how this works. That's how it happens. And just asking it a bunch of what-if questions. That's this entire chapter. It's just Oro asking a magic pool in his head what-if questions. But don't you worry, we are on the best possible timeline. Even in the timelines where Isla ends up with Grimm, he's still happier in those timelines because he knew her. We are really setting him up to be like the biggest simp cuck that there ever was. I know I might not get the girl, but at least I get to like touch the hem of her skirt every now and then. Like, Oro, please, for the love of God, get somebody else in your life. And then the Silver Lady says, you can break the cycle. Probably, I'm gonna guess now that it's gonna involve Oro saying, Isla, I release you. Go be with Grimm. And I'll be happy just having known you, getting to see you every now and then. That's fulfilling enough for me because I am just the most sad, pathetic man that ever lived, honestly. I don't even like Oro anymore because he's so pathetic. Like, sir, there are other people that you could fall in love with. I hate it so much. I hate it. I hate it so much. And that's the end of his chapter. He just asks the pool a bunch of what-if questions. Let's see, how long is Isla's chapter here? Should I do 2? Yeah, it's only a couple pages long. I'll do 2. Then I probably have to wrangle ferrets. They've been quiet for a while, which is concerning. So Isla's back in her cell. Lark is there and clutching the feather so that Isla can't, like, take it away from her. Also, she knows that Oro's off hunting the Star Stick, and I love how Oro, king of everything, who should be in charge of spearheading this monster defense force, is like, I can just fully leave, and I'm sure the child will be able to figure out how to defend from the monsters that are attacking. Bad leadership is one of the biggest themes of all of these books, and I think that's an accident, but boy howdy are these books just saturated, seeped to the bone, with examples of awful, awful leadership. Okay, it's just a little thing with more words than you need. Isla laid on the filthy cell floor and looked up at the only window in the cell. You know it's a window in the cell. She's on the cell floor. So you can just say the only window. Unless she's somehow magically in 2 rooms at once, we already know that the window is in the cell. But as she's looking out the window, she sees clouds rolling in. It's time for another storm! Again, everything that happens is caused by crazy random happenstance. The characters don't take actions on their own. They just wait for the plot to arrive at their doorstep so that they can do the next thing. For example, storms. Completely random. The author can have a storm happen whenever the fuck she feels like it. So if ever she gets to a point where she doesn't know what to happen next, a storm magically appears. So Isla's sitting here being like, how can I use my powers? How can I use my powers? Because the cell has bars made of shade made, so I can't bend the bars using my powers. I am limited to what I can do in the cell to Lark, who is conveniently asleep. So she's thinking about how she could use her shadow powers to also, like, send tendrils into Lark's brain. And then she does it, and she's amazing at it, first try. She's got a super light touch. She rifles through Lark's mind without any effort. She just knows exactly what she's doing, thank goodness. If we hadn't already marked down Isla has a brand new power, it would be now. I haven't marked down retcon. I need to mark down retcon. Oh my goodness, what am I doing? Sleeping on the job here. I'm also going to say Isla guilty for no reason. Still no new bingos, I don't think. Isla briefly thinks about how doing the same thing that the bad guy does might be not a great look for her, but it's only like a sentence long, so it's fine. We time jump after that to Oro's point of view? Oh no, maybe she's visiting Oro. But, yep, so it was super easy, barely an inconvenience, to go through Lark's brain without waking her up and get the exact information she needed, because the storm happened to roll in. There's Deus Ex Machina, and then there's whatever is happening in this book constantly. It's the hand of the author. It is, like, I've talked about this so many times. All things in books must be contrived because you are telling a story. However, the key is to be skillful enough to make the reader believe that it's not, like, within your control. Like, these things are just naturally happening. The next thing that happens is the next obvious thing that happens. But this is not that. This is the opposite of that. This is what if you've ever wondered what the opposite looks like, we have it. Oro shrugs a single shoulder. Take a drink, but she is here to give Oro the information about where the Starstick is, because we're running out of book. Aster is like, okay, I've almost fulfilled my page count. I don't know why Oro's bothering with this. So he's gotten to Nightshade, apparently. I don't know how much time has passed in the world Isla's in versus the world he's in, but maybe they have a time dilation, because it seems like he still had a few days left to travel. Anyway, he's at Nightshade, and Astri is apparently helping him. But for some reason, he's staying in Grimm's castle, and Grimm's council is involved, and I'm like, why the fuck would you bother with any of that nonsense? Now Isla shrugged a single shoulder, 2 in 1 chapter, wow. Isla is, again, so close to realizing that her husband is a terrible person. She's like, I'm having a really hard time seducing Grimm. Like, what if it was just random luck that we, like, fell in love the first time? Yeah, honey.
He's an asshole.
And it probably was just random luck that you happened to get him to become obsessed with you and only you. She's so close to realizing that he's terrible to everybody. And when he doesn't know her, he's terrible to her. And that is not a good person to marry. Grimm needs years of therapy with a team of dedicated therapists and possibly medication before he is ready for the commitment of marriage. Basically, the scene is just so that she can give Oro the information and then he can glaze her up and be like, don't worry, Isla, you're just so strong. Yep, that's it. That's just the end. That's how the rest of the chapter goes, so... Oh boy, yep. But we're back with Oro for 71, so we're probably gonna watch him find the Starstick, which I don't know why he didn't just use the panther and the dragon to sniff it out, but I guess he can't now, because the animals did their one job for the book, and now they have disappeared back into the ether. And we're back on another dreary day with me looking as scruffy as usual, but let's be real, you're all just listening to this while you do chores, and I'm happy to accompany you on your chores for the day. So, let's get back with Oro. By the way, this is chapter 71 on page 355. 71! That is so many chapters! For some reason, Alex has gotten back into her old habit of thinking that every time we change scenes, we just need a new chapter. Like, I get we have alternating characters and stuff, but sometimes she will just, rather than doing a time jump, which would make perfect sense, she just starts a new chapter for no reason. Anyway, we're back with Oro.
And there was much rejoicing.
Also, she has an advantage with this book since she's just naming the chapters after the character that we're with. We are not having her usual trend of naming the chapter after a noun that occurs roughly on the first page. Oh, but hey, ask and ye shall receive. We're finally... Lynx is back, just when I was saying that we're probably never going to see the animals again. But Oro didn't use him to help until now, for some reason. So we are reminded that the cat is constantly psychically linked to Isla, and therefore seeing all of her lusty moments with Grimm, like when she almost kissed Grimm, apparently. And Oro got to see that, because for some reason we're still limping this love triangle along, and I do not understand.
Stop! He's already dead!
Somebody take this love triangle out back and shoot it. It is done. Astria, Grimm's general and Isla's cousin, were reminded of both of those things, just in case we forgot who she is, which is a genuine fear because she's barely in this book. It comes by the stables. Apparently the cat has just been hanging out in Grimm's stables for some reason. She comes by with a giant barrel of water, presumably. She's carrying it. I don't know why. Just get a dolly. Or dolly's not invented in this world. Anyway, we also make mention of the fact that she wears swords across her chest in an X, which is the dumbest way to wear swords. I desperately need those guys who are on Instagram who, like, debunk the way that swords and fights are described in the Fourth Wing series to get a gander at this, because they make fun of Xaden for wearing swords on his back, but wearing them across your chest has to be worse. Apparently, though, the dragon has been eating everybody out of house and home, which makes sense because, as we remember from a previous book, he is fucking enormous. And rather than just having him go hunt for his own food, they just keep starving their citizenry in the middle of probably a war. They're endlessly at war. They're always at war. but I guess, don't worry about it. They have plenty of supplies for things like chocolates, so the cozy Christmas village is well stocked. That's the important thing. So the animals are coming along with Oro to the place where Isla told them the Starstick would be. So I'm not sure why he needs the animals now, because he already knows where it is. Or did Isla only get like a vague area from Lark's brain, and he needs to get like more precise by using the animals? I don't know, by the way, why we needed that scene with Astria where she tells him that the dragon is eating all the food. That did nothing, and we moved on from it. And was it to try and convince us that the situation is dire? Because we know that Aster doesn't actually care about logistics like that. So the Starstick is underground, so they go to a field, and he's like, yep, it's directly under us. Well, I guess Astria came along. I don't know why, but she's here as well, I guess. So basically, what he's going to do now is just dig up this entire field using his magic. Cool. And he brought the animals because, I don't know, he wants them to dig as well, perhaps? Let's use the dragon for digging holes. That's a good use of him. He points out that a wildling could do this very quickly, but conveniently they have moved out. You remember they were living on Grimm's lands for a while. They have conveniently moved on since then, so there's no wildlings to hand. So Oro just digs for hours. Astria is like, I won't be much help, and I don't even know if the dragon and the cat are digging, so I don't know why Astria's here, why the dragon and cat are here. They just wanted to come watch Oro dig, I guess. He makes a giant hole in that field so deep that he can no longer see the sky. That's how deep down he is. I don't know where all of the dirt that he's kicking out of here is going. Presumably he's just drowned a nearby village in dirt. He doesn't care. Isla's on the line. But doing so is just so exhausting that he fucking passes out, and that's the end of the chapter. Okay. Guess he probably just didn't think about how much he loved Isla hard enough, because that could have kept him going. He did think about how much he loved her, but I guess not hard enough. But we're just going to go on to Isla's chapter then. So Isla's having dinner again, because we've gone from torturing her every day to having dinner with her every day, because I don't know, reasons. Cronin is like, you're going to prove why you would be such a good ally for me. And he unshackles her powers, I guess. So he tells his underlings if anybody can beat Isla, he'll give them a free planet. This scene, I can already tell, is going to be so pointless. It's just so Isla gets to be a badass for some reason on page 360. And again, it's through no effort of her own. It's because the bad guy decided he was bored and wanted her to use her powers. So everybody's super eager to go after Isla for some reason. Everybody tries to jump her, and she uses each of her powers to hold each of them back. So, like, one's being held back by water, one's being held back by fire, one's being held back by shadows, just so you see that she's still got all of her powers. I think we have another typo, because I don't know what this means. Her husband was gazing intently at her sides. Is that part of the meal? Like, she's got a side salad or something, and he just can't take his eyes off it? Like, her sides? And Cronin is impressed. It says, Cronin clapped, his vice gripped her bones once more. So he's still using the bone vice as his method for keeping her powers at bay. And then everybody clapped. I'm not kidding. She releases them because her powers are back under the vice. And everybody claps for her. They're all impressed. So then we cut to Grimm taking her back to her cell. And he's like, why didn't you use your powers to, escape? And she's like, well, I couldn't leave you. So now she's just doing another thing where she reminds him that he used to love her and how she will never give up on him. It's, again, extremely repetitive. She finally does tell him, hey, BT-dub, our lives are linked, so if I die, you die. Little bit of information that I feel like perhaps she should have revealed a lot earlier. Also, can he not tell? Can he not feel that his life is bound to hers? She gets the shit kicked out of her a lot. Is his ability to sense her being in trouble only tied to his memories of her? Isla, you remain so close to getting the point. She knew her husband could be a bastard, but he was really making it hard to love him. They sound like two teenagers having a conversation, by the way. It is the depth that this dialogue lacks should be studied. Of course, he pins her against the wall, because as I've mentioned before, that's their love language. He can sense her horniness emotions, and he's getting turned on by them, and he's mad about it. Which does seem like, is that a way that she could manipulate him? I know we're supposed to believe that they just fall in love because their love is so pure, but if he can feel her emotions, and she gets horny about him, doesn't that kind of manipulate him into being horny? Did she actually accidentally use powers to make him love her? She just didn't realize that she was just kind of using his powers instead? It's like a reverse siren. And he does the thing that they've done a million times already in this book, where they get really close and really horny, and then he turns around without a word and stalks away. He has done that so many times. I should put it on the next bingo card. I should definitely put it on the next bingo card when we read Aster's new series, because then there will be a whole new broody boy who will be exactly like Grimm to fall in love with a whole new girlie who will be exactly like Isla, and I betcha there will be moments where he's got her pressed up against the wall, and then they're about to like smooch, and then he storms off. But this time his storming didn't last. He came back for a smoochy smooch. It only took like 4 or 5 smashing each other up against walls to get this far, but now that they're back boning each other, she will completely forget what a jackass he is. So they're dry humping in a hallway, just out in the middle of the castle where anybody could see us, so. And we're back with Grimm. They're just getting hot and heavy and dry humping in a hallway. I bet you this is just going to be sexy times. It's just 3 pages. She keeps bucking her hips. She's done that like 3 times in this dry humping session alone. Aster really doesn't have a whole lot of words that she uses to describe the sexy times, and it's very derivative of, Sarah J. Maas, let's be real. So, it gets very repetitive and very boring because it's just the same things over and over and over again. Isla's nipples, though, always become erect when she's turned on, so he looks down at her chest and is like, yep, even though I can feel her horniness, I am now certain. So basically we're in Grimm's point of view, so we can watch him do it with her the first time again and just learn that, once again, that she is the most attractive, the most sensual, the most amazing, most beautiful person he's ever encountered in his entire life. So they do it in a hallway, and they both finish, and Grimm's like, oh, this is bad, actually. Because now that they've done it, Grimm is, cemented on her side, which just goes to prove that their relationship is actually just built off of horniness. And if you took that away, they don't have anything. The way that she has convinced him to be on her side is all through horniness. The times that he has cracked, the times that he has come closer to being on her side was when she was extra, extra sexy. Gave him that sexy vision of the time that they did it from their past. Doing it with him in this hallway now. That is all that they have. And let me tell you, that cannot be all that you have if you're going to have a successful, long-lasting relationship. I'm sorry, it just can't. The sex can be amazing, life-changing, but that's not going to work. And you probably don't need the asexual to tell you that, but just in case you do, hi, hello, here to inform you. Oh, Grimm would be so cooked if he was ace. Because, or Isla would be so cooked, because, she couldn't use this on him. She wouldn't be able to use sexual attraction as her way into getting to know him. And then he'd just stay a jackass forever. So Grimm tries to save face and be like, ha ha ha, I was just using you just then for your body, and I wasn't actually interested in you at all. And then Isla stomps away. And that's the end of that chapter, and then it's Grimm again, so I don't know why we don't just have a time jump. Why did we have to have a whole chapter? And then we're just back with Grimm. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know why Aster does anything, honestly. I feel like if I ever spoke to her and asked her questions about her craft, her answer 99% of the time would be, I don't know. Or because I felt like it. She does a lot of writhing in the sexy time scenes, too. She bucks and writhes a lot, which gives me a hilarious mental image, honestly, sometimes. Sometimes I picture her like one of those wiggly worms, the ones with the little googly eyeballs that wiggle all around that cats love. Well, this chapter's only a page long, a page and a little bit long. So why did we have a new chapter? This could have just been the end of the previous chapter. Just put in a time jump, because all it is Grimm went to his room and had a sulk about how sexy Isla is. Grimm decides the cure for his horniness is to go ask Cronin to show him the future where Isla stabs him over and over and over again. But I'm sure he'll probably come to the conclusion that he loves Isla so much, or rather Isla is so sexy, that he would rather be stabbed by her than not ever do it again. And he just watches that over and over and over again until he is cured of his horniness. So, glad we had a whole chapter just for that. Now we're back with Oro, and maybe I'll also read Oro's chapter here real quick. The cat just got comfortable on my lap again, so might as well keep going, I guess. So Oro passed out underground, and he, of course, wakes up to Isla, or a feeling of Isla. But suddenly he has wildling powers flowing through him because he felt Isla sense her somehow. I don't know. Did her energy get stronger while she was doing it in a hallway with Grimm? And that's like, talk about sloppy seconds there, Oro. Now he's like, oh, I'm refreshed and I have wildling powers now, so I can burrow better. Diggy, diggy, hole. Diggy, diggy, hole. And then he just finds it. He finds the star stick within the first page of this chapter. So super easy, really an inconvenience. Why did he bring the animals in Astria? Why are they there? Are they still sitting up, above at the top of the hole being like, man, he's been down there for a while? Or did they wander off to go get lunch or something? Oh, apparently they waited there. However long he was unconscious underground, they waited there. So he flies back up and he lands and Lynx is there and so is Wraith and Astria. So they all just hung out. I guess they have nothing better to do. Monsters are coming out of a portal and attacking, but no, they're just going to sit around a hole. An enormous fuck-off dragon would probably be really useful for monster fighting, but don't worry. We have a child. Apparently Isla does get a new dress every day, though, because she appears to him again, and she's wearing a different dress that's pooling around her as she sits in her cell. But he notices immediately as he checks her over for injuries that she looks disheveled, and her dress is like askew. Like maybe she did it with someone in a hallway. The whole ending part of this book is literally just rubbing it in Oro's face over and over and over again how much Isla chooses Grimm. Grinding his face into that knowledge. Like, it's mean. It's mean-spirited what Aster is doing to her own character. So we have about a page of Isla just instructing him how to use the star stick, which is fine. I don't actually hate it. Like, for the love of God, slow down and do stuff like that sometimes, Aster. So Oro decides to tell her about the silver pool that he got a vision about and the results of that. And his takeaway was that he realized how much anger he was holding against his brother. A righteous anger, I feel. His brother was a real jackass, but we're supposed to forgive him because he accidentally stumbled into the best possible timeline. He didn't know that. So the message of this book seems to be that if you thought you've done something terrible and hurt people, actually probably this is the best possible timeline, and if you hadn't have done that terrible thing, it would have been worse. So Oro's like, you're always telling me I'm strong, Isla, but I'm not. I'm just a man. I have regrets and shame. And I'm like, you should be ashamed that you're still simping after this girl who has so blatantly not chosen you that she would pick her boyfriend who has lost his memory and is being an absolute dick to her over you. And then we have a couple more of those lines that Aster likes to write, those snappy TikTok lines. She was the blade that refused to be broken. She was the flame that refused to be extinguished. And then Oro learns the same lesson that he's learned 8 million times about how he thought that love was a weakness, but actually it was a strength. How many times can these characters learn the exact goddamn same thing? I swear they all have amnesia between chapters. And then the chapter ends with Isla leaving him and Oro feeling more determined than ever. Again. And we're back for more of the madness, but everyone, look at this cute cup that I got at Goodwill. Oh, it's very, very full. I'm trying to show it to you and spilling tea on my lap. It says, for Fox's sake. Did I need another mug? Absolutely not. I still bought it though, because... Look at it. You saw it. All right, let's go. We're back with Grimm, and prospects are looking grim. My goal today is to read enough chapters that I can finish this bad boy tomorrow. So, let's go today. Isla's wearing another scrumptious dress that Grimm has to notice, and we get a little hand wave of like, Cronin must be sourcing his fabrics from another world, and it's like, why do we, of all of the plot holes in this book, we're not terribly concerned at this point about where he's getting the fabric. There's so many other questions I would ask before, hey, where's Cronin getting the fabric for all of these pretty dresses? I still don't understand why Cronin keeps dressing her up in a new sexy dress every night to come to dinner. Does he think that she likes sexy dresses, so he's like luring her to the dark side with a new dress every day? I really want to understand his motivation for this latest tactic. Of course, Aster cannot resist this exact thinking. It happens so often. Because she was beautiful, stupidly, infuriatingly beautiful. The most beautiful woman he had ever seen, even if she was his enemy. That's like a tagline. That's not something that you actually put in the book. Nigel's mad because he thinks that we should be sitting on the couch in the other room playing video games together, not me sitting out here filming. He does not prefer this chair with me. He prefers the couch. He's very particular in his old age, and if I am in the wrong spot, I gotta hear about it. But oh look, they announced they have another special guest, and it's Lark. She is recovered, finally, and she's wearing a layered dress in heavy fabrics that glistened with gemstones. A layered dress in heavy fabrics. Anyway, so she can't wear a slinky sexy dress like Isla. I imagine that she's dressed kind of like the queen in the Bridgerton series, you know, just huge, voluminous, because she can't be wearing a slinky prom dress. She's old. But Cronin's like, yeah, this is Lark. She's in love with me. But also Cronin just randomly decides that they're going to have a duel. So he shoves everybody back and climbs up on the table. And he's like, you're going to duel with me, Lark. And I'm like, why is this happening? I mean, I guess. So we just have like a boss fight of two bosses, and we're just sitting here watching it. And I don't know why this is happening. Like, everybody say the catchphrase, this might as well happen. They fight for a while. Don't know why we had to watch that. And then Cronin obviously wins because it's his castle and his world. And he reduces Lark down to dust. So presumably it's going to take her a little while to reconstitute from that. Why do we keep saying this? So he can sense that Isla is stressed by this. And he's like, oh, that must mean Isla cares about Lark. And not the fact that Isla's a little bit stressed that Cronin reduced a very powerful person to a pile of dust. She is now vacuum-uppable. She could reconstitute on the inside of a Hoover. No, that's not what's concerning her, according to Grimm. He thinks it's because they're relatives. And he says, he realized Lark might be the last remaining family member. And I'm like, I know he doesn't know, because he doesn't remember, but we keep implying that Lark is Isla's only family member when she has a fucking cousin. Also, Lark was wearing her feather, her Horcrux, in her hair. So when she was reduced to a pile of dust, did the feather not also get reduced to the pile of dust, thus rendering her unable to, like, reconstitute herself? Probably not. Definitely not supposed to think about that. But Cronin demonstrates chopping off his own arm, and then it heals. And he's like, see, she still loves me. So she's still giving him her powers of regeneration. And that's the end of the chapter. Cronin's just like, see how love is a weakness, blah, blah, blah. We've heard it a million times. By the way, if you hear noises in the background, aside from Nigel, Adam is working in the kitchen. And if you can't hear the noises because my new mic doesn't pick them up, just continue to be reassured that I'm not alone in the house with this book. Now we're with Oro, chapter 77. Oh, he's going to visit Azul. I was wondering if Azul was ever going to reappear in this book, or Cleo. We're using the other leaders are definitely just plot points, and actually I need to cross that off. I'm going to cross that off now. Other rulers don't matter. They're not people. They are plot points. So that gives us a bingo across the top with Grimm and Oro have chemistry, more flashbacks, Isla gets even more powers, other rulers don't matter, and torture used as training. You could come sit by me. I know you don't want to. I know you want to be on the couch, but you should come sit by me. Come on. You know how to get up here. I know you're mad because I'm not on the couch, but you can come up here. See? Come on. Come on right up. Up you go. There you go. See, you can sit by me here. Luckily, Oro has mastered the Star Stick in seconds because Isla gave him some instructions, and that's all it takes. Isla's directions are the best directions ever given, and therefore, he can completely understand how to use the Star Stick. So Oro's like, hey, everything seems really chill here on Sky Isle. Are there no monsters attacking here? And Azul is like, no. Like, we can sense a disturbance in the air, but no monsters are attacking here. And that makes me really curious why nobody even bothered to, like, I don't know, inform Azul that Lightlark was in super, super big danger. Apparently, though, everybody has basically fled to Azul's lands. So he's got everybody. I don't know. Like, it just says other nations have, like, come to his lands and he's in charge of them, too. I don't actually know who it is, but I'm going to assume it's pretty much everyone because they're all sick of dying and Azul's is, like, the safest place. Azul, I'm guessing right now, is going to be filling the role of the magical person of color. By virtue of the fact that he is black, he is wise and is here to give good counsel to his white companion. And also he is gay, so he's the double whammy. He is the gay friend, the wise gay friend, and the wise person of color, all rolled into one easy package. So Oro can tell that Azul has more on his mind, and he's like, what is it? And Azul says, my husband told me something else. I didn't share earlier because I didn't think Grimshaw would understand, but you might. And it's like, of course. We need to keep the plot moving, so it turns out that actually Azul was just sitting on some information for some reason, just waiting for somebody to come ask him, I guess. Although I do have a fondness for the level of checked out that Azul seems to be, because that would be where I would be at as well. I would just be like, fuck everybody else. My kingdom's doing really well. You all idiots running around trying to find your girlfriend. Just, the Straits are not okay. He can sense it. He's like, no. So apparently, I don't know how this came up in his conversation with his husband, because we didn't see it. Once again, fuck you for that, Alex Asser. That somehow they got to talking about how Crowntide, in some interpretations of some prophecy, is not the war. It's a person. There's a person called Crowntide. Probably Isla. She had 8 million nicknames in that one book. Yeah, it's definitely Isla. It means that there's a person whose entire existence changes fate. Yeah, it's Isla. We're still just completely dug in on that prophecy that Isla's going to have to kill one of them. So Azul's like, if you kill her, her prophecy cannot be fulfilled. But asking Oro to do that is like, I don't even know what to compare it to, because it's so impossible for him to ever even consider. We just get more Oro simping about how he knows that she's already chosen Grim, but he doesn't care, because as long as she's happy. I also love how his husband doesn't have a name. He doesn't say Kevin. I don't know why I've named Azul's husband Kevin. He doesn't say, oh, Kevin said one more thing. He says, my husband said one more thing. But he is like, yeah, there are multiple versions of the prophecy, and you guys only heard one. So, like, maybe don't hang everything on this one prophecy. And I'm like, yeah, it's only been like 5 books of that bullshit. Can we finally maybe have a moment where we're like, what if this is the wrong prophecy? Apparently, in some versions of the prophecy, Oro is the one whose heart is divided because he can't decide between his duty to his people and his world and a hot girl that he wants to have sex with. So, yeah, Azul's like, so in that version of the prophecy, you stab Grim or Isla, and we all know he's never gonna fucking stab Isla. We're back with Isla for like 2 pages, so I'm just gonna keep reading. So we have a whole exchange with Grim and Isla that's incredibly cringe, where she has a little bit of ancestor goo on her face, and he rips his shirt to give her as a hanky. And of course, he's ripped it in such a way as his whole abs are showing.
So you managed to get your shirt off.
So somebody put the remains of Lark, the pile of dust, in the cell. I don't know if we would be at all concerned that pieces of her might be missing when she was turned into dust, but perhaps those pieces will find their way to her. She's slowly reconstituting in the corner, looking like a weird glob of fleshy bits. Charming. A Grim shows up in the cell, and he is like, Cronin is invading our world early, I guess. For some reason, Grim decides the correct answer to he's invading our world early is, I'm going to open the cell door and just leave it open, and this is your chance to run, and I never want to see you again. I don't know why he thinks that that is the best thing that he should be doing in this situation. Conveniently, because this is one of the books where Grim actually cares about his people, Isla's like, oh, there's good in him because he wants to save our world, he wants to save his people. But again, he dislikes his people and doesn't give a fuck about them in more books than he cares about them. So I feel like this is the fake version of Grim. Grim shrugs a single shoulder. Take a drink. I'll take a drink of my tea. So Isla's trying to convince him that he should side with her and go save their world. And I don't know if she actually succeeded, but she did grab the front of his shirt and stand on tippy toe so she could stare sexily into his face. Cronin comes out of the shadows where he was listening into their plan, and I'm like, okay, but he basically just heard them gassing each other up. Like, that was it. There was nothing resembling a plan in anything that they talked about. So that's the end of that chapter. Cronin is here now. And we're back with Oro. I think I've only got a few more chapters before I'm going to call it for today and finish this up tomorrow. Hooray! And the early chapters are ready to go up. I was editing that on my other computer earlier this morning, so we are finally doing this thing. If my February hadn't decided to be such a little bitch, I would have been done with this sooner. Anyway, this is another chapter that just begins with him thinking about how amazing Isla is. Good, good. So Oro is at the beach with the water that looks the same color as Isla's eyes, which we know are very, very green. And it just makes me think that perhaps this area of the beach has a serious algae problem. So we basically asked Enya, his bestie is hanging out with him, the trolley problem of, like, if you could only save me or the world, which would you choose? And she's like, oh, I would save you. But she's like, it's just a hypothetical. And it's like, it's concerning that how quick you, like, went to that. Like, I get that he's your bestie, but I love how the message of these books is that responsibility is like a curse. It's one of the worst things that could possibly happen to you. Anytime we think about anyone's responsibility to their people, it's basically used as like, it's this enormous burden. It's this thing that they have to do, that they've been saddled with, that they've joined to their people by the curse. Like, they didn't choose it and they never would. It's like, oh, I have to save my people because I have a responsibility. And it's like, or maybe you're a good person and care about people. Maybe you don't want people to die because you understand that they're human beings with lives and loves and families. And also that you need them, that without them, you'd just be some guy. But no, it's always just like, oh, it's such a burden being in charge of everyone. Ugh, being so special is so hard. And I can't shake the feeling that there's a little bit of Aster in there being like, ugh, being so rich is so hard. Like, I have so many responsibilities to people. Being a famous author is so hard. I'm just so responsible for everybody. Ugh, it's draining. I'm like, oh my God. Again, I don't know for sure that she feels that way. It's just like the attitudes are very consistent in these books about those topics specifically. And then he and Enya just sit watching the water, and that's the end of the chapter. Cool. She didn't say her line. She doesn't want me to get a filled out bingo card. Chapter 80. 80. We are back with Isla. I wonder if Aster doesn't number her chapters, because then she would realize how frickin' many of them there are. So Cronin is like, I knew you two were conspiring against me, and he transports them to the galaxy room where he usually does his torturing and also where they have dinner. There's like 3 rooms in this castle that we ever see. Isla's cell, Grimm's room, and the galaxy room. Oh, I suppose there's 4. There's also the bathroom. And of course he does the whole bad guy, I underestimated you, Isla. So for some reason, I guess maybe because he's bored, who knows, Cronin is like, okay, Isla, I challenge you to kill all of the knights in this room, and there were like 8 of them or something like that, and he gives her a sword. The first knight attacks her, she bests him easily and cuts his head off. We don't know what she's wearing in this scene, but we can only assume it's a slinky dress, which she's always able to move in perfectly during a fight, no hindrance whatsoever. It could be a floor-length, skin-tight gown, and she can just fight in it. She heard the sound of shadows sharpening. What the fuck does shadow sharpening sound like? I didn't know there was a noise. Okay, there were 12 knights, but of course she killed one, so there are 11, and they're getting the best of her now. She remembers how she stabbed one of the knights in the neck with that rib bone, so she's like, oh yeah, that's right, their necks are their weak point. Necks are kind of everybody's weak point. And she stabbed one of them in the neck, and then she uses its fallen body, she like pulls its body onto her to protect her from the rest of the attacks. And not only does putting the body over her cause the attacks not to hit her, but the armor, I guess these guys have armor that's like really reflective. The shadows that they were using to attack her bounce off of the body she's using as a shield and hit the other knights. So she doesn't even have to do anything. And she just, they're stunned by their own shadows, and she just goes one by one and stabs them in the throat. But she only stabbed 10 people, and that means there's somebody, oh no, he's right behind her. And he bests her for some reason, kicks her sword right out of her hand, and starts strangling her. Stabbing her would probably be more efficient, but strangling is what he's going with to give her time to either A, come up with a plan, or B, for Grimm to save her. But she discovers in this process, because the knight's helmet comes off, that he's a clone of Cronin. All of the knights are Cronin clones. That's hard to say. But like weak versions. So like versions of himself that suck. I don't know why he did this, when he did this. He could have just created shadow minions, but he decided to clone himself. Why not? Why the fuck not? But Cronin kills his last clone knight in the room for reasons, I don't know, so he can gloat. And then, so, I don't know why she had to fight all of those knights, because she fought them, and then nothing happens. He just suspends her in the air with his magic and pries into her mind again. So, like, why did we have her fight those knights?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Did we need to find out that they were all clones of him? Because I don't think that that's going to be an important plot point.
Oh, you're right. And when you're right, you're right.
Who fucking knows? And for the first time somehow, she realizes that when he goes into her brain, it's a two-way connection. I could have sworn she figured this out earlier, but maybe not. Maybe it was just with Grimm. So she's like, oh, I have access to his brain now. Look how far into the book we are, and how many torture sessions has she had where he's gone through her brain, and she never once figured it out. And then for some reason, because where we are in the book, she figured it out now. Nothing new is happening that makes her more likely to figure this out in this moment. She just needed to, because we're at the end of the book. Cronin's mind palace, though, looks like a hedge maze, so that's fun. She's also aware enough of what he's doing while she's going into his mind. She's also still able to defend her own mind. So it's not like she's making a sacrifice of like letting him plunder all of the information while she goes into his mind. She can totally do this and not risk her own knowledge in the process. So Cronin finishes going through her brain. I don't think he found anything. He's not gloating about it if he did. And don't you worry, Isla totally figured out his weakness while she was in his brain, so that's sorted, thank God. That's definitely not something that we couldn't have just as easily done at the beginning of the book as the end. Once again, Aster completely fails to understand the idea of ramping things up, of action and reaction, of setup and payoff. Isla never wins because of a culmination of things she has learned, skills she has gained, friends she has made along the way. Isla always wins because at the end of the book, the author is like, okay, now she just does this thing that she probably could have done at the beginning of the book. She just didn't do it back then. So now Cronin, I don't know why, because he's stupid. I don't know, because he's a cartoon villain. He's like, I've decided that you two are going to fight now. And whichever of you wins, I'll save your people. Why are we still doing this? The two of them just need to turn on Cronin. I don't know why Grimm won't yet. Like, even if he wasn't hot for Isla, you'd think that he'd be like, all right, fuck this guy.
This would be a great spot to use Grimm's daddy issues if he had any, especially if you had read the novella. Grimm's father was very overbearing and, threatening, and so perhaps Grimm could see a lot of his father in Cronin and be sort of defaulting to the way he always used to be obedient to his father. But no, Grimm has to have grown and hates his father and has no respect for his father, so we can't use that angle. So we have no reason to understand why Grimm, a very independent, bossy guy in his own right, would listen to Cronin.
So the chapter ends with him being like, you guys are going to fight each other to the death. And I'm just going to keep reading Grimm's chapter 81, and then maybe I'll be done for the day, and I'll leave the rest of it for tomorrow. That would leave me about 40 pages to read tomorrow, which is a lot. Famous last words, right? Once again, we're being told, we're so being assured that Grimm is actually a good ruler and wants his people to live. Yeah, sure, whatever. Once again, we have a lake being a thing that's flat. Her emotions were flat as a lake. Lakes, in my mind, are not inherently just flat. Like, maybe a calm lake. The waters of a calm lake, sure. But, like, the rest of the time, they could be pretty choppy. There's always going to be little waves, and if you're talking about the bottom of the lake, that's not smooth either, so. Oh, they're not going to duel right away. They're going to duel tomorrow. Again, why? Who knows? Who fucking knows why anything? But that means that Isla has to be prepared by her ghost ladies-in-waiting. So Grimm knows that if Isla dies, he dies. He knows that they're bonded together, but he's still like, I have to kill her to save my realm, which is putting a whole lot of faith on Cronin to keep his word. Because if Grimm's dead, he could just be like, LOL, I'm not saving anybody. Like, Grimm is putting a lot of faith on the dude who kind of lies as a hobby. But, before they duel each other, they gotta have one last sexy times. So when he goes to his room, she's there somehow, wearing a very, very sexy dress. Yeah, it's basically see-through. She's wearing a see-through dress. And she's like, this is the dress they gave me to duel in. Could she not be like, no, fuck you? Like, seriously? He's not suspicious how she got here. He's like, what are you doing here? But not, how did you get here? Like, were you brought here? Did you escape from your cell? Are you perhaps an illusion sent by Cronin to torture me? Like, what? No, he has no questions like that. And if you're wondering if during this scene he pushes her up against the wall, yes. Aster has two moves. They either have sex up against the wall or in the bed. Those are the two places. Oh, he's thinking about shredding her dress to ribbons, even though it's barely there. I think that counts. I think him thinking about it does count. She's writhing again. She has like 2 moves. She wriggles and writhes a lot. She's very wiggly, this girl. The word against is used a lot in this sequence. A lot of against each other, against the wall, against this or that body part. Okay, he delicately takes her dress off, but he wanted to shred it, and it's my bingo card, so I can say that. Grimm shreds Isla's clothes. He says, we've done this before, and she says on every surface you can think of, and I'm like, as long as those surfaces are the bed and against the wall. And that's the end of the chapter. It's just a sexy times chapter. Not much to report. We've seen it all before. So I'll see you tomorrow for me, same day for you, in my cosplay. I've got it all ready, so hopefully you like it. I'll see you then. Hello everyone, it's me, the Silver Lady, a character who just appeared in this book to show the characters where to go, because it would be way too hard to let the characters think of things themselves. But you can always trust me to take them to the weird and mysterious pool full of lung water, where they can find out all the information they need to know. Did you guess I was going to dress up as the Silver Lady? What do we think? I hate this wig, so we'll see how long I can tolerate wearing it, because I am suffering right now. The reason that I used to have hair that was this long, legitimately. My hair used to be this long, but I cut it off over 10 years ago, and never looked back. There was a reason for that, and all of them are coming back to me as I wear this frickin' wig. I thought about maybe getting like a Silver Surfer costume, because that's clearly, to me, what the Silver Lady is actually based on, but I went with this because I already had the wig. Anyway, it is chapter 82. We are back with Isla. Let's find out what could possibly happen next. Make your predictions now. How many more crazy random happenstances are there going to be? Put in the comments below. It'll feed the algorithm, and it'll be fun to look down and see what everybody's guesses were. Oh, we're just leading off from the sexy times. They do it in the tub. They finally decide to get some variety, and they do it in the tub. Thank God we found that out. Like, I would not have been able to handle the ending of this book if I didn't know that Grimm and Isla branched out and did it in the tub. Well, they're not in the tub. He just bends her over the tub. Takes her from behind, bending her over the tub. So they've just been doing it all night. They've kind of run out of places to do it, so the tub is kind of their last port of call. We're still mid-sexy time, so I'm still having to read about that, and I suspect that that's all this chapter is going to be. So that's multiple chapters now of the same sexy times, and I hate it. This was the best she had felt in weeks. Well, I can imagine. Like, this isn't some sort of compliment to Grimm's sexual prowess. It's because for weeks she's just been sitting in a cell, and when she's brought out of the cell, she's tortured by somebody putting shadow fingers in her brain and going through her memories and changing them, which we haven't addressed in a really long time. Several of her memories have been presumably permanently changed, and we have not come back to touch in on that topic. That's a thing. But yeah, it's because she's been being tortured all for the last several weeks. Not because Grimm is just such a good lover. But Grimm's like, even though we have been doing it literally all night, we still are going to duel tomorrow. We're just going ahead with that, apparently. We're just going to do exactly what Cronin says. And I'm not going to go easy on you. I'm not going to let you win. So she goes back to her cell, thinking about how, like, even though she and Grimm spent a passionate night together, that doesn't necessarily mean that their bond has reformed. Because she doesn't understand that their bond is only based on sex. But she goes over to Lark, who is still just basically a pile in the corner, but her feather is now sticking out of the pile, and she just takes the feather. So that's the end of that chapter. And now we go back with Grimm, where we get to listen to him probably for some amount of time, whine about how amazing it was with Isla and how much she's actually his enemy still. Because in one vision that this shady motherfucker gave him, Isla stabs Grimm. And for some reason, Grimm continues to believe the villain over the woman he just spent the entire night boning into oblivion. So he's eating dinner with Cronin before the fight with Isla, and a knight comes in and is like, the prisoner's gone. So it's really lucky that Cronin just happened to decide to turn Lark into a pile of ash so that Isla could just take the feather and didn't actually have to earn it through any efforts of her own. Grimm takes this as a betrayal, of course, because everything's about him and he's so freaking sensitive. So he's like, oh, she must have figured out the Skyer that I have. Like, maybe during sexy times it was revealed and she saw it, and that witch, now she's got it too. The smart thing to do would be for her to leave this palace, but Isla didn't make smart decisions. Yeah, I mean, the book is coming right out and saying it. Isla is dumb as a box of rocks. She just waits because she has the best luck stat of anyone alive. She just waits for the plot to give her a win. Yes, that often involves her being tortured for a while and having a bad time, but eventually she knows that the author will reach in and solve all of her problems. So that's how it ends. Grimm is like, I'm just going to hunt her down because she totally stole my Skyer. We don't know for sure that that's what happened because we didn't see that in Isla's point of view. So I don't know if we're ever going to get an explanation or not. But we're with Oro now for chapter 84, and it's really, really short as well. So I'm just going to do all 3 of these chapters. Oh, good. Cleo is helping. Because we touch back in with the fact that everybody's working together to defeat the monsters. He's got help from Azul now. Azul, who was happily just ignoring the situation before. And I mean, like, honestly, good for him. But now Azul is helping as well. And Cleo's helping. It says, Cleo helped without question. Just like we always have endless numbers of soldiers in these stories, there seem to be endless numbers of monsters. Monsters just keep pouring through the portal day and night constantly, and they will just never run out of them. Apparently the other world is just monsters all the way down. I don't know why Isla didn't encounter more. Also, they don't get shredded into little pieces coming through the portal this way. You only get shredded going the other way, I guess.
But he gets a visit from me, the Silver Lady. Oh, good. I'm here to hand Oro another way out so he doesn't actually have to do anything himself. Aside from go on a MacGuffin hunt, that is. I show him a sword and he's like, what is that? And I say, a famed weapon that can kill anyone and anything. It's been hidden for millennia. Don't know why I didn't mention it until now, but that's okay. Kept from those who would use it for ill will. This is the key to peace or ruin. You must find it to have a chance of defeating Cronin. I don't know why I didn't tell him this before now. Probably because the author didn't think of it until this exact minute.
That's Aster again, being like, I don't know how I'm going to get my characters out of this situation, so I'll just have the plot hand them something. Turns out there's always been this super uber magic sword that can kill anything. And nobody heard of it before now, and it's never been mentioned before now, but now the Silver Lady, a character who exists to bring proclamations like this to the characters, will give him that. So, great. But it's hidden in a pocket of time. Okay, sure, whatever, that might as well be true, but look, Oro's got the threads of time, or he did. I think Cronin has them now, but he used to have the threads of time, so maybe he can still interact with time somehow? Oro's like, I don't have the threads anymore. Is there some other way I can do it? And she says, you perhaps are the only one who can. And then she disappears. So that was just a chapter where Aster didn't know what to do. So she had her Deus Ex Machina fairy show up and tell Oro what the next MacGuffin was and that he's the only one who can find it. It's the solves all our problems MacGuffin at the very end of the book. Hooray. All right, let's get on to the next chapter. We're back with Isla, and I'm still wearing this wig, so here we go. She got the Skyer. This is so stupid. This is dumber than her finding it on Grimm. Cronin's mind maze was in the shape of the Skyer. So his mind palace is in the exact same shape as the hedge maze back home, which is where Grimm got the Skyer. So Isla just went into his brain because she realized she could do that suddenly, and off-page realized that it was the shape that she needed. So she never even had to, like, betray, quote-unquote, Grimm by noticing the Skyer while they were doing it. But she's up in the sky now, and when she looks down at Cronin's palace and the surrounding area, it's in the exact same Skyer shape. What is that shape? We don't know, and I don't think Aster knows. But she goes and finds a storm, and she grabs some lightning, because that's a thing she can do.
You called down the thunder. Now reap the whirlwind.
Because I guess the storms are also portals, and so she just focuses really hard and can now use them for that. Although Grimm was wrong, because he was like, the smart thing to do would be for her to leave, and she did. So I thought maybe she was like lurking around in the palace trying to convince him, but nope, she ran for it. She went back to the Forgotten Forest. Possibly, maybe she can give Grimm his memories back here. That would be a pretty convenient Deus Ex Machina. But she just calls Grimm to her using her life alert necklace, because that still works. But Grimm is back to being super, super angry because, again, none of these characters stop to ask questions or consider someone else's point of view. But Grimm especially is really not into that. So he's like, I am here to fight you now. We are enemies again because you might have looked at the Skyer on my arm while we were having sex, and that means that you betrayed me. They're going to fight, and she shot toward him. So that's how you know the fight's getting started. They gotta go shoo. We have the we're not so different trope, i.e. the author just literally writes it on the page. That's how Aster thinks that tropes work. You just actually write the thing on the page. So they were enemies. She just writes, but she was his enemy on the page. Or if they do the who hurt you trope, they have to say those exact words. Who hurt you? Preferably more than once. And of course, her shadows were a reminder that she was also Nightshade, and they were not so different.
There you go, poetry.
But the Forest of Memories starts doing its thing. They start both participating in a vision of the woman lineup where Grimm first met Isla. So we're just going to get a greatest hits of all of their moments at the very end of this book when something else should be happening, but we don't. The author doesn't know what to do. So I imagine Cronin is just going to just sit here and be the final boss for the last book, where they can get the MacGuffin sword, unless Oro just randomly gets it at the end of this book, which is entirely possible. But then they can use the MacGuffin sword to maybe stab Cronin in the next book. So Grimm starts to resist, and they have a fight, and I'm sure it sounds very cool in Aster's head because they're rolling around through the memory like it's a hologram. But it says, the powers emanating off their clashing skin? What does that mean, their clashing skin? I should have had bearing of teeth on the bingo card as well. But we have a slightly different thing. So Isla has flames on one arm, ice on the other arm, and she says, you want to duel? Let's duel. And it says, they both lurched forward. So a lurch is not a move that I think of as something you start a fight with. A lurch is more almost a stumble, whoa. Once again, we're reminded that ice powers in this world can freeze shadows. So she freezes Grimm's shadows at one point. But don't worry, if you were worried that no one was going to shoot forward in this fight, he shoots forward. I can't help but feel like Aster is really proud of this scene. Not because it's well written or anything, but because it seems to be where she's thrown the most of her quote unquote cool visuals. Because every other fight scene is just sort of and then they fought. And then the shouting commenced, and we're actually getting some beats for this one. And she's doing things like throwing entire forests at him. And it's very big and it's very grand. And I imagine in Aster's imagination, it is extremely cinematic. This is the thing that's going to be on the big screen. The beats of this fight go thusly. They shoot towards each other. A bunch of different things are described to do with fire and ice and shadows and stuff like that. And then they get separated and then they shoot towards each other again. Over and over and over. Those are the beats of this fight. And of course, while they're doing it, the highlight reel of their past is playing. And honestly, I do not hate this in concept. With a different writer, this could be very cool. Their past is playing out around them like a holodeck, but they are fighting in the midst of it. I think physically fighting with magic and stuff like that. And I think the right person could make this a really impactful scene because it was smart to not just give us the highlight reel of their lives all over again. We've seen them fall in love so many times, just repeated and repeated and repeated in all of these books. We know all of the beats from both of their points of view at this point. So we don't need to see it again. So having them fight during this actually is a smart idea because we still get to have the highlights, but it can just be mentioned in passing what is going on around them as they fight while keeping the focus on their fight. Now, it's very poorly written because it's Aster, and 2, the fight isn't really doing anything except being a fight. And I think a more skilled author could turn the fight itself into something like perhaps tying beats of the fight into beats of this memory scenes that are playing around them in some way, bringing elements of how they fight into elements of how they fell in love. But we're not doing that, they're just fighting. They pause the fight, which again is just following the same beats that I already talked about over and over and over again, to watch the scene where Isla, dies the first time, where she, sends out all of her power because Grimm got stabbed through the chest by a Drek. But he's really, really deeply invested in this idea that she's going to kill him, and he has to kill her. And he has to kill her to save his people, which he totally 100% cares about. Is this the lesson of this book, is that Grimm needs to care less about his people and start going back to caring only about his wife? Is that what we're supposed to get from this? Grimm, no, 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 no. You're not supposed to care about other people. You're supposed to be obsessed with Isla. Now you stop this right now. So we get through all of their beautiful, beautiful memories. And now they're standing in like a swirling vortex of their memories with her hair whipping majestically, and Isla makes her sword that she made out of starling power disappear. She's just like, I love you, Grimm. No matter what. In every reality, I love you. And then she says the magic word, our love is infinite, and he goes, infinite? The word was like a key, so apparently all she had to do was say our love is infinite this whole time, and he would just snapped out of it, because that's what happens to him now. Oh, but bait and switch, he like touches her face and she's like, oh, I finally got to him. And then he grabs her face really hard and he's like, I don't care. And what are we doing?
If only there was someone out there who loved you.
But it turns out, dun dun dun, that he led actually Cronin right to them. So Cronin is here now, and he has a shadow dagger held to Grimm's throat, which I assume means that he also wants to sleep with Grimm. That's how people flirt in this universe, but oh no, if Isla tries anything, he'll kill her husband. Oh no, what a shame it would be if that happened. So now Cronin makes Isla, because even though she has her powers now, she's just not as strong as he is, I guess. He makes her take the dagger and start to stab Grimm with it. But he doesn't make her kill Grimm yet, because you remember that he needs the pool of possibilities MacGuffin. And so he's like, I will make you plunge the dagger all the way in if you don't take me to the pool of possibilities. Okay, whatever. This is so scattered and random. I can't. You know, say it with me, that might as well happen. Alright, so I had to go and give the cats their lunch, and I took the wig off for that, so now the wig is gone. I'm sorry to burst the illusion, but I'm not actually the Silver Lady. Although my skin is incredibly, incredibly pale, so like, can you really even tell the difference between my skin and this shirt that I'm wearing? This is what happens to very, very white girls in Wisconsin winter. This porcelain nonsense. Anyway, let's get back to it. We're with Grimm. Grimm is conflicted because he's like, she means nothing to me, so why am I upset that my ancestor is like dragging her around and forcing her to do things against her will? We knew that Aster's not a good enough writer to pull this off anyway, but like at this point, Grimm still being anti-Isla doesn't make any sense. Like, he literally saw all of their memories. And she said the keyword infinite. And if that didn't snap him out of it, I don't know what is going to. You know? Like, is Isla going to die for a third, maybe fourth, but definitely third time? And that will cause him to be like, oh yeah, I love this bitch? Like, we are beyond logic. And there really was not a whole lot of logic to speak of to begin with, but now we are well beyond it, because now he can see that if Isla does stab him through the heart, it will be Cronin's fault, because Cronin will force her to. But he's still like, but Isla, she's my enemy though, because I arbitrarily decided that in my head, and I can't go back on that. Oh, but you see, he's too principled. He's like, the Grimm in those memories put Isla over his realm, which yes, he 100% did. And I don't want to be like that Grimm. And I'm like, okay, but why? Because we read the novella, we saw a version of you before you knew Isla. And you didn't care about your people then either. So why when you erase Isla's memory, does he suddenly become just so obsessed with saving his people?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
But he's like, it's weird that I can't remember ever being happy. And then he's like, what if all my happy memories were of her and they were erased? And I'm like, that is just distressing. I don't think that Aster understands how distressing that is, that his only happy memories ever are with this bitch. So apparently the world tree exists here in this forest, and it's like this super, super ancient tree. And because of the super, super ancient tree, says Cronin, this forest like also contains every portal to everywhere. It feels like we were really setting up for another super convenient moment That's for sure. And Cronin wants to find all of the portals so he can more conveniently go places, I guess. Because he's like, I really want to find the pool because the pool will help me find the tree. Okay, I guess that might as well be true. Sure. Isla leads them to the pool, of course, because we all know that the one thing that she cannot help is defending her beloved husband, who is the worst person ever, but okay, and totally believes that Cronin is on his side, even though Cronin fully says, like, I'm gonna kill Isla and take the diamond, and while you are dying of Isla dying, you're gonna then bequeath the diamond to me, because when Isla dies, the diamond goes back to Grimm, and Grimm can then give it to Cronin. We're grasping at straws for why the character shouldn't just kill Cronin, because Cronin steps into the pool, and the whole pool turns like black around him because of his evil influence, but he goes into a trance because he's like seeing all of his past so that he can figure out how to find the tree, and Grimm's like, oh, I should kill him now, but then he goes, but what if that doesn't work? Like, what if I try it and it turns out that there's enough of his essence throughout the universe that he like comes back? And I'm like, well, it might take him a little while to do that, Grimm, so maybe you should still try this. These characters just keep being like, I could do something. Oh, but that sounds like work. These guys have the attitude of me thinking about getting off the couch and doing chores. He still fully believes with his whole chest that Cronin is going to let his people live, even after he kills Isla, and then subsequently Grimm also dies. But Cronin is going to let Grimm's people live. So not only is Grimm the most assholiest asshole who ever lived, he's an idiot. It's just a Windows screensaver going on upstairs. Cronin finishes up in the pool. Grimm doesn't do anything except think about killing him. And then Cronin's like, all right, I got what I need. He walks over to Isla and he snaps her neck while she's making loving eye contact and mouthing I love you to Grimm. He snaps her neck. So probably that is going to be the thing, although I just turned the page and the next chapter is Isla hours before. So anyway, we're going to dive right in because that's chapter 87. Yes, we begin right away. Isla had a plan. It was reckless. It probably wouldn't work. But for them, for him, she had to try. In this moment from the past, Isla is still in her cell, and she crawls over to what's left of Lark, who is reformed, but she's in a really, really bad state. Like, a strong breeze would kill her again. And Isla's gonna talk to her. So thank goodness we had Lark around for this entire book, just so she can do whatever the fuck she's going to do at the ending here. So Isla's offer to Lark, after all this entire book of Lark just sitting around doing nothing, being a corpse, or mostly a corpse, Isla says, tell me how to kill you so I can absorb your powers and then I will resurrect you. We're just putting a lot of faith on Isla to actually do what she says when she hates Lark. Now, Lark looks at Isla and realizes that she has the Skyer that's helping her have her powers back, and Lark clearly thinks about tattooing the Skyer on herself, but she can't because she doesn't have enough, like, limbs left. Now, Isla could. Isla could tattoo that thing on Lark, and Isla could be the one who has to trust somebody and be like, I'm gonna tattoo this on you so you can have all your powers back, and you can just heal yourself right up, and you'll be good to go. And then we can go defeat Cronin. But Isla's not going to do that. She's just going to be like, you have to let me kill you. You're just going to have to trust me that killing you is the best course of action. Again, Isla is just... I don't know why Isla has decided that Lark has to be the one to trust her and not the other way around. Because she's like, we're family. That has to mean something. But Lark gives in the space of about 2 paragraphs.
Fine.
Fine? You're doing what he says.
He's very persuasive.
Lark is like... whispers what Isla needs to do to kill her. And we don't know what it is, because it just says, and told her what she needed to know. It took less than a moment for Isla to end her ancestor's life. So we have no idea what it was. Was it pouring a pail of water on her? Like, how did she do it? Fuck off, that's not important. That's only the thing that Isla's been trying to supposedly do this entire book, is figure out how to kill Lark. You don't actually need to know how, because Astro doesn't fucking know how. But of course, Isla kills Lark and then absorbs part of her soul, or maybe her whole soul.
The Egyptians believed the most significant thing you could do in your life was die.
And she feels like that power rush over her. So now Isla is super invincible. Now Isla is Wolverine. So I don't know how we're going to endanger her in the next book. I suppose in the next book, there'll just be some other thing that makes it so she doesn't have access to her powers. That's probably what it's going to be. And that's it. She does call her ancestor a murderous bitch before she leaves. I think she was probably lying and has absolutely no intention of resurrecting Lark so they can fight. So Lark was a total dumbass for believing Isla and not even trying to like come up with other scenarios. So, and we're on to chapter 88, which is Grimm, and as you can see, it is less than a page long. But now that we know that Isla is now Wolverine, is now Deadpool without even slightly approaching his level of cleverness, she heals her broken neck. So Grimm just is like, oh no, and then she's immediately like healing herself. And he smiles, and that's the end of that chapter. Anyway, onward. We could have just seen him smile from Isla's point of view, like it really not necessary, but we're back to Isla. So she snaps her neck back into place because she's invincible now, and she sends a beam of silver energy from her forehead towards Cronin. Okay, sure, why not? Why not? Why wouldn't that be where beams of energy come from? Isla thinks to herself, endure, her mother had said. She would do that and more. And it's like, well, yeah, it's super easy to endure now that you cannot die. I mean, it's not going to be fun if somebody reduces you to a pile of ash. That took your ancestor a while to come back from, but... And of course, we have to be convinced that Isla is leveling up again, even though she reached, like, max level so long ago. Her armor's back on, and she was holding a sword forged from every shard of her power, and it all seemed to converge into something new, something stronger. Stronger than what she was before, somehow. So Isla goes into the pool, and that's making her stronger. Maybe she's merging with the Silver Lady, but it says, she poured the rest of herself into the pool, the flair she had taken from Lark, the abilities she had been born with, the power she had claimed for herself, life, death, and everything in between swirled in its midnight waters. This is just Aster just waxing poetical about how amazing her main character is now that she has leveled up again. I legitimately don't know where she's going to go from here unless she becomes like a cosmic floating head in the sky. But I think Aurora's soul comes out of Isla and like blocks Cronin's blade. Because Cronin like goes to attack her again and something blocks the blade before it can hit Isla, and then it's Aurora. And so I think Isla is manifesting the spirits of the people she's killed out of the pool to help her. Yep, she is. She's calling people who she's killed up out of the pool. I don't know if this is how you resurrect people. Maybe it is. I don't know how she would ever bring Cleo's son back to life this way, though, because she didn't kill Cleo's son. Grimm is very superfluous in this fight. He's just standing off to the side, gazing in awe at his beautiful godwife. But oh no, she expended energy. So now she's just really tired, and she fell back into the pool. And we all know that Isla being underwater is her one weakness, so she's starting to fade, you guys. Oh, no, I'm so worried. And while she is drowning and re-drowning over and over again, I guess that's just a thing that's happening now, she hears Cronin in her mind, and he says, this is your fate. I will keep you here for all eternity, or I will allow you the mercy of death if you bring me the Sunling King. So now all of a sudden Cronin wants Oro for some reason. I guess maybe Oro is the key to finding the tree that we didn't know existed until these chapters. But as she's drowning over and over again, the people keep like slowly resurrecting. They're not all resurrected at once. Like Aurora got resurrected pretty fast, but everybody else is still cooking like a little microwave. And as soon as they're done, we'll probably hear a ding, and then everybody will come out to help her. Aster's trying really hard in this moment to convince us that Isla just is like, oh, she's so weakened all of a sudden, even though pages ago it was just being described like how utterly, astoundingly godlike she was. Just the most powerful thing that we had ever seen in our whole lives, couldn't be defeated, and then all you had to do was make her a little tired and push her over into a puddle. And now she's dying over and over again. Oh, I need Isla to be on the brink of death now. And so she went from just, I am so amazing, sheathed in power and bathed in light, and behold me, for I am your god, to, oh no, I'm drowning. In seconds, just seconds. But then she remembered that love is her strength, and she just starts to recover from being drowned over and over again. She's like, oh yeah, but also love is super strong, actually. And then, because she's remembered that love is her strength, she like charges up the diamond and blasts Cronin, who's holding her down. All this is because Aster understands that in a final fight, in a final battle, we expect for there to be a moment where the main character is losing, because that like builds the tension. But she doesn't know how to do it, so she just goes, oh, Isla's losing now all of a sudden. And then she goes, oh, but then Isla remembered that love is important and she's winning again. Because she knows these beats need to happen, but she doesn't know how to execute them. Well, I think I found the title of the next book, by the way. She attacks Cronin and she goes into his mind because she's like, why do you need Oro? It's really convenient that he psychically mentioned to her that he wanted Oro, because otherwise what was she going to be doing in this moment? She's like, what do you need Oro for? And he's like, Oro is going to get the one thing that can kill me, the Heartblade. So calling it now, Heartblade is the name of the next book. But Isla comes back out of the pool like an avenging angel, and with her are different iterations of her at different ages. Are we meant to understand that she has, like, killed herself? Metaphorically, of course, at different ages. You know, the child version of her is dead, the teenage version of her is dead, blah, 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 blah. And to get to this final glorious resurrection, is that what we're supposed to get from that? She's like 23 or 24 at this point, though, because it says, surrounded by herself at 8 years old, at 12, at 16, at 20, so herself from like a couple years ago. I thought she was resurrecting other people that she had killed to come help her, but aside from Aurora, we haven't seen any specific people, and I feel it is because Aster would have had to go back and look at other stuff that she's written in the past, and she's really not interested in doing that. She would have to go, who has Isla killed, and what people could be standing at her side. And Aster is really none of her business, what she's written in her previous books. And then she takes his crown. Alright, we got 2 more chapters. I'm gonna probably pause recording one last time, and then get those last 2 chapters. Chapter 88, we're back with Oro. Home stretch, home stretch, home stretch, home stretch. We're back with Oro, everybody! So Oro is wondering why he is the one who can go get the special sword when Isla appears to him and says that Cronin's invading early and then disappears. But as he's mustering the troops to go defend from that, the Silver Lady in the pool invade his vision again, and she says, future has been poured into the pool, you can now ask questions and see how the consequences of every possibility unfold. Well, that's awfully convenient. This is like a video game. It's like, okay, you got enough points that you can now ask questions of the magic pool. Of course, we're not going to go in depth about it because we don't care, or rather, Aster doesn't care. And he asked about every scenario he could think of, every possibility, until he knew every future. He saw death and life. There was a clear decision, a clear moment, a choice that had changed the fate of the world and everyone in it. Okay, good, great. Love that. I don't want to be given any details. What are you talking about? But he comes out of the pool reassured that somebody has to fucking die. Like in every iteration of this world, this timeline, somebody has to die. Aster is still milking that one aspect. She's got to get that into the final book. And that's it. Like, he just sees everything, every possible future is like, nope, status quo, and we keep walking. And we're back with Grimm, who has thus far been standing around, watching his super awesome uber godwife defeat the bad guy. I'm just picturing him like a little kid, you know, waiting at a dentist's office or something, just playing his Game Boy, like... It's like, Mom, are we done yet? Basically, it says Grimm didn't help because he wasn't sure who he wanted to help. Like, is he still somehow convinced that Cronin could come out on top of this altercation? But Isla reaches out to Grimm and is like, I saw this cool weapon that can totally kill him. And it's hidden here, but in another time. So we got to time travel in the next book, too.
No! God, please, no! No!
And this is the moment when... like, he really has no other options, and he sees that Isla is super uber powerful, amazing, best thing ever, and she can totally beat Cronin. That he's like, oh, she is my wife. So, not only is he just super horny all the time, but he's so shallow that he won't believe that the woman is worth following unless he basically sees her transform into God in front of his very eyes. And even during this fight, when she proved that she can resurrect herself, he was still like, but what if Cronin wins, though? I still want to be on the right side of this. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's the husband you want, Isla. Somebody who couldn't pick a side in the final battle and just stood there watching you until he was sure that you were winning. And then he was like, okay, I'll be your husband again. Yes, that is the basis for a really solid marriage, definitely. But now that he's realized that Cronin isn't an issue anymore, he's all in with Isla. He's like, yes, this is definitely my wife. Oh my gosh, I love her. But as he's holding her and thinking about how he's found her again, his beautiful, lovely wife, and he even says, I'm sorry, you know, So we're getting all the fantasies here. Then he feels something pull in his chest, and it says the last thing he saw was the devastation on her face as she and the pool portaled away. So I thought he was being portaled away, but she and the pool are being portaled away. I don't quite understand how that goes, but we're back with Oro, and we're almost to the end, you guys. We're at chapter 90. 90 chapters. Almost 100 chapters in this book. Isla was coming. Oro could feel her careening through the universe, headed right towards him. What does that feel like? I'd love to know what that feels like. But there's a giant explosion, and the little pool turns into a giant crater. Presumably Isla has arrived. What? Okay. Sure, this might as well happen. I'm sure there'll be some dumb explanation for it. But the giant crater happens, and then Cleo reaches into the water and pulls out her son. He's alive! Was her son one of the people that Isla killed at some point? Maybe Lark killed Cleo's son. And because Isla now has all of Lark's powers, she also has the souls of everyone that Lark killed? I don't know. But Isla is in the center of the crater, her eyes are glowing, her hair is magically whipping around, she's looking all cool and godlike, and all of the resurrected people are in the crater with her, just like walking around. See, we're not even pretending anymore. Isla was in the center of them, rising like a god, so we're not even pretending that she's not God. So she stops glowing, she comes on off of her glowingness, and, he calls her love, she doesn't acknowledge that, and then he asks, "Where's Grim?" And chapter 91, back with Isla, and I believe this is our last chapter. Thank God. Thank Isla, I guess, because she is God. She says he chose Cronin, but how does she figure that? Because she, portaled away, and it definitely seemed like it was, not Grim's plan. I mean, she doesn't know, she wasn't in his POV. Yeah, I don't think that he chose anything, and she's once again, she's just leaping to the conclusion that because he didn't come, that means that he still chose Cronin. Probably because Aster still wants to pretend that Oro's leg of this love triangle still has a fart's chance in the tornado. Apparently, which we didn't get in his POV, the blade that Grim had seen reflected in those waters had made him falter. Also, she's not greeting him at all. He keeps calling her love and, touching her face or whatever, and she's, barely acknowledging him. Further proof that their love is not a thing. She's like, what did you saw something in the waters, what did you see, blah, blah, blah. But before they could have even more conversation, a whole bunch of portals open in the sky. Portals to all of Cronin's worlds open in the sky. How she knows that they're all Cronin's worlds, I'm not sure. But she's like, now he knows that to kill me, he also needs that special sword. And it just ends with Isla thinking about how no matter what they choose, they are always fated for one of them to kill another one of them in these three people. Somebody, Isla, Grim, or Oro, has to kill somebody else. Isla, Grim, or Oro. That's just fate. There's nothing you can do about it. This all ended with a blade through the heart. The only question was whose, and that's the end of the book. Thank God. Holy moly, that was awful. I mean, you were there, you saw it. That was uniquely bad. That was... I didn't enjoy reading this one as much as I've enjoyed some others because so much of the middle was just repetitive. It was the saggy middle. She just kept getting tortured over and over again, and then she'd make some headway, and then she'd lose all that headway, and she'd just be tortured again. And oh no, he's found the information, but oh no, she hid it better, and just repeat for infinity. So let's look at the bingo card real quick. What else can we get? We cannot get Star Stick not described because it was described. It is a silver stick. We can't get I Do Not Die Today because she wouldn't say it. She wouldn't say it. Aster was toying with me this entire book. She wouldn't say it. I think another reason that I didn't like this book as much for the fun factor of oh, what could happen next is because we were jumping between all of the characters and all of them were doing some dumb shit that didn't make any sense, so there was not even a single thread that I could follow, because we wouldn't stay still for 10 minutes. It was just bam, 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 all over, and so it was really difficult to follow anybody's threads, and to care about anybody's threads, and then Oro didn't matter for a significant amount of time, and Aster is still desperately trying to do the Grim Isla love story over again, and it's still not resolved, because I guess Grim stayed with Cronin. Whether that was against his will or not, we'll find out in the next book. But yeah, so this one was not as fun. because it was all very repetitive and also very scattered at the same time. Do we give it Queen Cleo slander? Because she does get to be pretty cool, but also she's a grumpy pants for no reason. I almost feel like we can't, just because when we did see her, as much as we saw her, which is very little, she did get to be cool. No women allies for Isla. Yep, I thought perhaps Lark would turn out to be an ally, but in fact, Lark spent the entire book a pile of body parts in the corner. So, surroundings barely described. Yep, got that. Isla conceals/dampens her powers. I'm giving it that because her powers were dampened. So, the only ones that we did not get were I Do Not Die Today, Starstick Not Described, and Queen Cleo slander. We got everything else on the bingo card. Yep, and we could have got other things too, like, and some of these are tripled up. Like, I've got shrugging a single shoulder and lips parting as its own square. I've got puddle, marrow, and legion as its own square. So yeah, we might have to do more and more of that as these go on. Normally, I do like a little side video talking about how I would have improved the book if I had been like helping developmentally edit it, what suggestions I would make, but my suggestion for this one is that this needs a complete overhaul. We need to start over from the ground. I wouldn't salvage anything in this, honestly. There's not a single idea that I liked in this book enough to say like we have to keep that thread for future books. Or we have to keep that thread when we rewrite this one, because this just needs to be rewritten from the ground up. It's not nearly as fun as some of the other ones, because at least those ones, we got to go more places than the same prison cell and the same room where they either tortured her or ate dinner with a bunch of people who didn't matter. I don't understand why Aster loves like a council scene so much. She really loves to put people at a table with a bunch of faceless NPCs that are there to sort of disapprove every now and then the bad guy gets to like kill them if they step out of line. I don't know why she likes that so much, but that's a thing that happens a lot. But all of Aster's isms, all of her bad habits were all here. This was so poorly edited. Like, if I am finding this many errors and typos, I am able to find that with my dyslexic ass, because I don't normally notice that kind of thing. The flavor my dyslexia likes to take is that I don't tend to notice spelling and grammatical errors, which is why I'm a developmental editor, not a copy editor. So like if I'm seeing that many, that probably means that there's even more in this traditionally published book. But it's very clear to me that Aster doesn't care about this series anymore, and she's literally just cranking out a first draft, sending it to her editors. They make any changes that make it unreadable, and it's very close to being unreadable as it is. So they fix anything that makes it completely unreadable, and then call it good. They publish it and give it 1 million editions and amazing covers, and she goes to signings and thinks that she's a really good writer. And the rest of us just seethe. I know I'm seething. Are you seething? I'm seething a little bit. What should have happened to her is what happened to Milo Winter. That's what should have happened to her. She advertised this book. It turned out to be pretty bad. She should have gone back into obscurity and learned how to write. But that is not what happened to her because her family is wealthy. I think that's the main difference. You can argue with me if you want to, but I think that's the main difference. She can fail without punishment. And she's not. She's failing upward. She's doing the rich person thing and failing upward and just getting more and more books, even though they are awful. And if you are wondering, Julian, are you going to be reading her next fantasy series? I think we have to at this point. I think we have to, because we just got to keep calling it out. And also, it does make us feel better about our own writing. Like, if this is out in the world and has fans, granted, I think all of those fans are quite young, I suspect, are very young or have a very young reading level, and eventually, hopefully, those people will find better books and discover that storytelling is a thing and skilled writing is a thing. I have faith that they will do that someday. They kind of almost can't help it because there's only up to go from this. We're locked in. Like, I'm going to be reading the last one in this series, you can bet your boots, and I'm going to be reading the next series that she starts, and we'll see if it's just like Lark 2 Electric Boogaloo. I bet it will be. That we're going to have a self-insert main girly that looks just like Isla / the author, and she's going to probably fall in love with the Shadow Daddy. Let's see, was there anything else I wanted to say before I wrap this up? It always feels a bit anticlimactic once I get to the end.
So a couple of things that I wanted to mention, and this is as good a place to put this as any, is that we really missed out with Lark. You all know what a wasted character she was. You saw the treatment that she got in this book. But the thing about Lark is that Lark is a lot like Isla. Lark is in love with a powerful, an inscrutably evil man, and she's hopelessly in love with him. Like, even when Cronin turned Lark to a pile of dust, she was still in love with him. And Isla never sat with her. They were in that cell together for a long time. Isla never sat with her and went, why do you still love him? And then she could process at that time, why do I still love Grimm? What keeps me coming back for Grimm even though he's being evil to me right now? That would have been such an interesting conversation. And, you know, we always keep finding out that love is the most powerful and good force in the universe, but Lark's isn't. Lark's is damaging and dangerous and gets her hurt every single time. So, like, what are we doing? I don't think we're doing anything. I don't think Aster put that kind of thought into it, but it could have been so interesting. The other thing is that I have a prediction for the future, because we have this new prophecy where any one of the three could die to fulfill the prophecy. First of all, I don't think Grimm is in danger at all. I think Grimm's going to be fine. I think one of two things is going to happen. Either Oro is going to willingly sacrifice himself because he is the nicest good boy. They'll figure out how to cure Nexus. I mean, Isla's immune to Nexus because it's a curse and she's immune to curses. But they'll figure out how to cure Nexus. Maybe it's already cured because she killed Lark and she's immune, so maybe she's already cured. Or at least her people are free. But then Oro will nobly sacrifice himself, I bet. Or, alternately, Isla sacrifices herself. But when she does it, unlike if Oro did it, when she does it, because she's the first ever iteration of this Isla figure who appears once every however many generations to do this cycle over and over again, she'll be the first one that ever voluntarily sacrificed herself. And so she'll get to be resurrected as possibly something even more powerful, because she was the only selfless one ever in the history of ever. This will not happen if Oro sacrifices himself. He'll just sacrifice himself and be gone. Everyone will feel sad for a little while, and then we'll move on, and Isla will continue to bone her hot Shadow Daddy boyfriend. Those are my predictions for what could happen in the final book. Let me know down below what your predictions are.
Next read along, nobody panic. People keep asking me as though there was ever any doubt. We are going to be reading Jenna Moressi's upcoming book, The Savior's Army. And compared to this, it's probably going to sound like Shakespeare. So Aster is doing Jenna so many favors right now. Honestly, I'm going to be reading Jenna Moresi and being like, wow, this is so good. Because she knows how to arrange words in a slightly more logical manner. Probably, I assume. But we'll find out, so tune in for that. I'm going to be getting that book soon, and I'll just begin reading right away, so get hyped for that. Anyway, I think I'm done for today. I'm going to go change into warmer clothing, because I have a heater right next to me and a heated blanket on my lap to keep warm wearing this thing, because it's still winter here, so... Anyway, do comment below any thoughts that you have about this book. Whatever enters your brain, it's got to be more logical than whatever was in Crowntide. Plus, it pleases the algorithm, and we around here, we live to please the algorithm. Oh, and of course, don't forget that I am a developmental editor, so if you would like help with your own book, and trust me, I guarantee it's already better than Crowntide, but if you would like help with your own book, you can find me on Fiverr. Check it out. We might be a good fit. And then you can tell all your friends that your book is with your editor. Wouldn't that be so cool sounding? Very professional sounding, right? All right, I'm going to stop talking. I've been talking for a long time. I will see all of you again next time with whatever it is I'm doing next time. Bye.